saw his whole thing down there, and I was like, I'm too gay. I was like, I'm too gay for this. And I literally traumatized that man.
Do you actually say that?
Yes, word for word. Him and I are bros now, so.
You know, when I have children, I would still love them if they were straight. Like, if they were straight, I'd still, I would find in my heart to accept them.
Think of that. I will love you either way. I was a worship leader. I did so many Bible studies that I led. I was deep into a lot of it. And I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go all in. And I had no recollection, no memory, no anything of this until people kept putting these ideas in my head that since I was gay or having these gay struggles, that I was hurt or abused or molested as a child, or maybe I just didn't remember it.
Wait, so I've seen gay porn. Does that mean that I'm in the first stage of homosexuality? If you got toys that plug into the wall, that's stage 6.
Exactly.
It's so blatantly obvious that you've just been deceived by the homosexual burial ground in your parents' backyard, because
I wasn't ready.
I told you I watched your whole TikTok. Welcome everyone to the Deep Drinks podcast. Today we have Hayley Brook, the awesome musician and TikTok sensation. Hayley is a member of the LGBT community. She is a lesbian and went through many years of struggle that we'll hear about in this with her religious faith and her family. So welcome, Hayley, to the Deep Drinks podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm super excited, and y'all bear with me because this is my first podcast and I'm a little nervous, but we're going to bear with me. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we were talking just before the interview started that we're both for some reason nervous. I have no idea why, but oh well, we can be nervous together.
I've really never told my story before, so that's something new for me too.
Oh, I'm so honored that you are telling it here for the first time. In full, I guess. We're drinking a drink that you suggested, which is this one here, isn't it? Botanicals, cucumber mint vodka.
Yes.
So, I mean, you're just drinking on
a little
rocks.
Bit of water in mine. It's a little strong, so it's a slow sipper.
I told Amy, my wife, that we're going to a family gathering tonight, and I said, look, I'm going to be drunk, and she's like, okay. So she's driving. So I'll add a bit of water to mine as well. Yeah. So first of all, your music, I want to give a shout out to your music and your TikTok. Your music is, I've been listening to on Spotify, and your song, I was listening to before this, Dear Mum and Dad.
Yes.
I've just lost it. Yeah. That song,
that's my most recent. The other ones were obviously I was a little bit younger, and I have a lot that I haven't, recorded yet. So I'm still looking for a producer up here because I moved and everything. But Dear Mom and Dad that's the one that's hits close to, home and everything.
Yeah, and it says a lot that you can bear your soul. Not that I actually believe in souls, but that you can bear yourself so much on the tape like that. That's incredible.
It's funny because, well, not fun. This is my sense of humor, guys. Just heads up. I tend to, trauma. It's a thing, so I tend to laugh about it. But it's my way of coping. But also, I just like to make the bad situations as good as I can. But I would just say that anytime I do perform that song anywhere, and I'm selective about where I do it because I'm in a town that's, interesting. I guess we'll get into that. But I cry every time. Sometimes if I'm in the right atmosphere, I tear up. I just it's one of those things, and I don't even mean to. It's not even necessarily it's that, I wrote it a bit ago, but it's still, I don't know. It's wild.
Well, links are in the description for that song. Make sure you check it out because it is. Make sure you got some tissues though, especially after you hear the context of this story. Sure. So I'd like to jump into just talking about your story. If you could, well, everyone's seen your TikTok at this stage, that the family video. But I guess I wanted to ask, when did you first? Well, hang on. The first question I need to ask is, are you sure that you're gay?
Valid question. So yes. Have
you? What if you met a guy who had bench pressed a lot and he had tattoo? He had piercings in his dick.
Yeah, so I've had you know, as a lesbian, I will say a lot of people like, this is just, it's a weird way to put it, but like fetishize, is that a word? It's like a fetish for a lot of people, and it gets strange sometimes. And I've had very awkward, like strange encounters. Sometimes you'll tell people, like guys, like, no, like I'm, you know, I'm gay, and they'll be like, all right, but okay,
But
like they're like ready to like for the next step, and I'm
yeah.
like, no, do you not like get what I'm saying? But like, it's just super funny how that works. But yes, I'm definitely 100% gay. I feel like a lot of people in our community, they and it varies. Like, you know, it's there's a spectrum, and a lot of people, including myself, I thought I was bi at first, and I was kind of like hoping I was, which there's like being bi is a whole hard thing in itself because there's so many people that are biphobic, and it's just a mess. Even people in our community, they go through a lot. But I was hoping I was, solely because I was hoping that if I did, it's a very strange like dynamic, because I was hoping that I would like maybe end up with a man, you know, or something like that. So I've given it chances. I've given guys chances, more so like on dates and things like that. I've even, you know, almost gone there, you know, physically, and I ran out of the room. I literally was like, I saw his whole thing down there, and I was like, I'm too gay. I was like, I'm too gay for this. And I literally traumatized. Do
you actually say that?
Yes, word for word. Him and I are bros now, so shout out to you, bro. But yeah, so it was a little awkward because we were all supposed to, like a group trip. We were supposed to go to the beach the next day, and I was like, but yeah, he was like, and this is the funny thing. He asked me, he was like, did I turn you? I've had a lot of guys that I did go on the dates with. They were like, did I turn you? Even my first kiss. Wow. My first kiss was he's another good friend. And I set him up with my best friend after that. And now they're getting married. So it's a very funny dynamic, but he was my first kiss. And I saved that until I was 19 years old. Cause I was like, I'm going to save it to my wedding day. Cause I was like, I was very, very big into my, like, there's a difference between like religion and spiritual for me. So I was very much so into religion, and I was like, I want to marry, my first kiss be the guy I marry, you know, whatever. So like, but yeah, it was very interesting. But literally, I was so weird about it. I was like, kept like dodging his face almost, and I was like, oh God, no. And then I was like, it just felt so wrong and so weird, and I didn't even really know why. And he literally said, Haley. And he's super sweet. He didn't mean it in like derogatory, like in any way. He was like, are you gay? And I was like, I just broke down in tears, literally right there. And I was not planning on it. Like, it was just wild. And I was like, jeez. Yeah. So he was one of the first people I told straight up directly, like, yes. So yeah. Sorry to get right into it, but there's that.
No, that was funny because that started out as a joke because you saying, are you sure you're gay? Because obviously that's the stereotype. I was going to then ask, like, are you sure you're not into me? That was the next joke I was going to go with.
Don't tell your wife. Don't tell your wife.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I'm married and I'm happily married and look like.
Cheers to that. That's the other thing. People be like, but I could be like an exception, right? I'm like, yeah, bro.
Yeah. It's so funny. But you actually went a lot deeper with that question, which is I really like. Yeah, that's interesting. So
I have a tendency to do that, so sorry.
So do I. And that's why I just from the way you're responding to emails, and I watched your entire TikTok, I was like, I think we think the same sometimes, and we have a tendency to humorize trauma or like horrible things, you know. So when did you did you grow up knowing that you were gay or bi
I didn't
at all?
Literally, this is crazy. I'm from a small town. Like, I don't live there anymore, but I'm from a small town called Moultrie, Georgia. The one you see in the clip in the TikTok was like Thomasville, which is like 20 minutes from there. And that's where their church, that's where they still go. I don't even really call it a church. It's more so just like a cult. But yeah, but basically I lived in Moultrie, and I genuinely did not even really know what gay was. I can literally tell you I know 2 people that were gay. And one was like my mom's hairdresser a while back, and she would always talk like derogatory, like just down on him. And it was just very strange. Like, I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, that's the worst of the worst. Like, that's in my mind what I was thinking. And then also I knew this one woman who will come up eventually in this story, but it's just kind of wild how our paths like ended up crossing. But this one woman I know there's more in that town, but like those are the only people that were like out that people knew of that was a lesbian. And she like she had kids and things like that. And so it was interesting. But what was the initial question again?
First of all, I like that you're just flowing with this because it's interesting. But when did you first kind of discover that you were gay?
So,
or when you were growing up, did you?
It's so strange, yeah. When I first found out or figured it out is so weird because I just thought, I guess the term is asexual or something. Like I honestly lose track. There's so many. I'm trying to like educate myself because again, I grew up not knowing. But I thought I was like, I just didn't think I had any attraction to anyone. Like I had boyfriends. I joked about it in one of my recent ones. Like I had boyfriends in 5th grade, but it was more so like I won class clown. Like I was just a comedy. Like I just always was joking. And also I just like at the time I was like super into like just having fun and upbeat. And, you know, when you're young, you just do things for attention and just, I don't know. It was just like one of those things. And so I was just, but if they ever tried to kiss me, I was like, no. Like all my friends were like kissing their little boyfriends. I was like, I always drew a line at that. It was just like for a companion almost at the time. But
it's like having a pet or something.
Exactly. Yeah. Good boy, just stay over there. I literally remember in 5th grade, this one boy, he wanted to kiss me behind a tree. And I was like, nope. I was like, no. But I just wasn't as sexual as everyone else around me was because I feel like a lot of their parents were more open to talk about things, which we did have the sex talk, but it was more, and that was like in 5th grade, I think, but it was more like religious based. And it was not, I just was very unaware of things, which it's, you know, and so I didn't know anything. And what was that?
Can I ask, were you in part of the country that teaches abstinence-only sex education?
Yeah, I want to say yes. Like we basically that's what we talked about. That's the only thing I remember. But it really just sucks because, well, I'll get into that other part later. But I just wish we did have more education about, you know, LGBTQ, like just things in general, mainly for safety, because I know a lot of my friends, they didn't learn about anything about that kind of thing. When I said that, people come at me online all the time. They're like, I do not want my kid to learn about that. I'm like, well, I don't personally now knowing that I'm gay, I don't want to learn about them. Like truthfully, like I don't want to be learning about straight, but like I know it's important because especially like growing up, I do know a couple of gay men. One of my best friends, he was even telling me, he was like, I snuck around with like men, like guys, like because I didn't know any better. And like, there's so many unsafe, like it's just like a safety thing. But the thing is, a lot of people, since it's like that, they're like, since it's a sin, they're like, well, I don't care. Like, you know, they just write it off. So it doesn't matter. But getting back on the point of things, that's just a little sidetrack note. I just find all of these things that I will say I do find it all important. So that's why I do bring it up. But so 5th grade, 6th grades, I kind of just isolated myself, did my own thing. I was a very interesting kid, like technology club, all these kind of things. Just did my own little thing. Never was interested in anyone. And then I remember when it hit like 9th grade or 10th grade or 8th grade, I think it was like 8th or 9th grade at junior high. We had like a separate high school. There was this one girl and she cut her hair short. And that she was like very like popular girl, like very beautiful. And she's one of my best friends now. Shout out to you, Rachael. But at the time I just remember thinking, wow, like why am I drawn to her? But like you never put the pieces together almost because I was never even like that with guys. Like if anything, they just annoyed me. And I was always like I've come a long way with that too, because there's an unhealthy thing with that. But I was always like, God, boys are dumb. Like they're all, you know. But
to be fair, no, I think you're right. Like it's so I don't know how chicks are into dudes. They're disgusting.
I've grown an appreciation for the good ones, you know.
Yeah, there are some good ones.
Yes,
but like even like sexually, like how, like have you seen boobs? Like they're just way better. Like the female figure.
Exactly.
Perfect.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, and the people that come at me on TikTok, the guys they're like, blah, blah, and I'm like, I look at their profile picture, they'll say something and I'm like, dude, you're coming at me right now. Like, come on, bro. Like, I don't ever, you know, shame someone's like anything like that. But then they come right at me and I'm like, I just can't hold it back. But anyways, so basically I remember her cutting her hair And when she did that, I remember it standing out. She had something happen. It was like, just high school drama or something. And I remember her losing like a good bit of friends or something. And I really didn't have any intentions because I didn't know I even liked her or anything like that. But I just remember being drawn to her. And I remember when she lost a lot of her friends because of some drama, I kind of just like, I was that type of person. I didn't have a clique. I just jumped around to people and had a bunch of different groups of friends. And so I really befriended her. And funny enough, her mom is the one person I talked about earlier who is the one lesbian that I knew of. And my mom was okay with that for the beginning of like our friendship because she didn't know that I had any, she didn't have any idea that I was even remotely into girls, which I didn't either. But, towards the end of things, my mom kind of thinks that like her demons could get on me. It was just a whole mess. And I really didn't get like,
the old demon transfer.
Yeah. Or it's like, she's shoving it down your throat. And I'm like, she never talked about her. Like, if anything, all my heterosexual friends, like their parents are more like mushy. Like, I don't think she had a partner. If she did, I didn't never see her. So like, it was one of those things. Like she was super sweet and stuff.
It's always weird too, because it's like a lot of the time people think that you can be turned gay, gay, like you can be talked into it, and it's like, just
or they're like it's shoved down our throats, and I'm like, who's the only person shoving something down your throat right now? And they'll say that just if they have to watch someone holding hands, or let's say a Disney like characters, they're like if there's a same sex like parent couple, like they're like, we don't want our kids, blah blah blah, and I'm like, just because they see that, like. Doesn't mean like if anything y'all are only showing them. I get in these like stupid little I shouldn't even respond to them, but it's so frustrating to me because I'm finally having my voice and I can't stand when people try to like that are ignorant try to shut it off. But like I don't know, it's just interesting how they're just so frustrating and they think that you can just catch the gay or whatever. That's what I call it. It like they act like it's like a disease, and I'm like and even some friends, I've had to cut off some friends because like even in like changing in like locker rooms and things like that, I'm always like, trust me, you can, if you ever seen like gay TikTok is just so funny to me because everybody's so relatable and like to each other because you don't realize that other people have these same experiences. But they're like, there was one, it was like someone was like, the gays are like looking down, like everybody else is like looking up, but we're like, we don't want anyone to think we're even looking, like we're trying to be respectful.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It's just not, it's not like that. So, but anyways, was that?
Well, I was just going to say one analogy I had when the same-sex marriage stuff was coming around. There was like a poster in Australia, the same-sex marriage stuff, and we had it a few years after you guys. There's a poster about like love is love or something in the airport from like Virgin Australia or Jetstar or something. One of the companies, I don't know which one it was. And a Christian lady took a photo of it and she's like, "Really? Do we have to see this like, everywhere we go? This is putting down." And I was like, "This is interesting." You? And I was like, you feel like, and people were saying Christians were saying they're being persecuted. I'm like, you think being persecuted is society taking away the big stick you've been whacking everyone with for the last 150 years? Like, this is not persecution. This is equal rights. This isn't like special rights. This is equality. And you're upset at equality. Like, this is
we're just so like wanting ridiculous. The bare minimum. Like, we're like not even like, it's not like we're taking someone's rights away from them. They act like they're losing them by us gaining them. And I'm like, no, like, what? It's just so strange. And like I kind of made some notes that like major points that I wanted to like kind of hit. And it's like the big thing that people tell me a lot is they'll be like the ones that are annoying, or the trolls is what I call them. But they basically will just be like, you have the victim mentality, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, or they'll think like I'm wanting pity. I'm like, one, I've never had support in my entire life. So like in this, like, setting, like when it comes to gay stuff, like growing up, yes, like I do now, but like growing up, so, I know like, and a lot of people, a lot of people don't. So it's one of those things. Like I want to be able to like talk about it and stuff like that, but it's just interesting. The people that they're like, there's a difference between a victim mentality. They're just the people that say that are usually the like abusers a lot of times if they're not careful about if they're just saying it in like a derogatory way. And I'm like, no, there's a difference between that and actually being a victim of something. And I don't want to have that victim mindset, but like at the same time, I want to draw awareness to something. And that is always a very big trigger thing for me when people say that. Cause I'm like, my parents, like, there's so many narcissists in my life that I'm like, I've never felt like my feelings were valid or things like that. So for me to even like, because I always feel like I'm a burden on someone. So I'm always like, for me to actually say something like that, but people on the internet don't take the time to know that. But like, it's a big deal, you know, like, it's just interesting that people invalidate stuff. But going back to that Rachael thing, the girl, she, we became closer, and the more I spent like time with her, it was just like, it was weird. And I finally was starting to feel something inside, you know, the little butterflies and things that you just don't realize. And looking back, after I started recognizing that, I saw so many different things growing up, like little crush type things that I didn't recognize. It was that same exact feeling. Like one time it was like a little crush on like a dance instructor or thing. Like not that it was anything like that, but like just little things that I never picked up on. It was the same exact actual feeling, but not just like a companion feeling. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I wrote it in my journal. And when I did that, my parents ended up seeing it and reading it. And that's kind of where I didn't know that part for a while.
That seems like a bit of a breach of trust. How old were you at that stage?
I think this was like, it was either 8th or 9th grade, because I just remember that time period. It was like, I think it was probably 9th grade at that point, maybe. Whatever age that is. But yeah, so I didn't know that for a while, but I think they were just kind of holding it until, you know, just to see what happened with it a little bit, because they were thinking maybe it's like a phase, or I don't know, to be honest. But either way, they read that.
Did you write in, what did you like?
Oh yeah, I have that journal somewhere. I'm meaning to find it, but I remember directly putting, like, word for word this part at least. I was like, I even shown Rachael, I was like, I really have a crush on this girl named Rachael. And I was like, it was just like little kid, like young, like I had a younger mindset even than like people that were in 8th grade, because I'd never been through that. So it was just like little kid, like honestly, even in 8th grade, like crushes and stuff like that. But it's just something small.
I have a funny story where a friend of mine, who she's like you know, we'll call herself probably bisexual now. She's like married or something, but she wrote love letters to this girl that she was like kind of screwing in high school. And screwing, what kind of word was that? I never used that word. Anyway, she was, you know, and yeah, and she anyway, they would always sign it, and they would sign it. We should sign it with a T, her partner, and her family found it, and they worked it out, and they were like, "What is this?" And she's like, "T stands for Troy. It's my boyfriend Troy," even though it was
that's smart. At least.
And then she made up this whole story. She made up this whole story about Troy,
like
and
ready.
Her family.
She was ready to recite it forwards and backwards.
But, I just love, because Troy is such like a masculine name too. It's like Troy, like it's so good, like such a funny story.
Dead. Well, so then from there, I don't remember exactly the part of this timeline, but I do know that I wanted to like obviously hang out with her more. I never told her until like way later, after I like was over the crush that I had that. But like, I just remember at one point, it took a long time for me to even admit. I said I was bi until probably like, I don't remember what year of college, probably like sophomore year. And I didn't tell anyone, but like, I just remember I finally told like Rachael something, and I don't even think my parents know this, so surprise if they see this, but I did sneak with her to, we snuck to like this, and her mom, her mom's the one that took us, but I mean, it doesn't matter at this point, but we snuck to Tallahassee, Florida, which it was like a small pride. It's not like one of the big ones like in Atlanta, Georgia, and things like that, but we snuck to one of those, and yes, it's tiny, but like, I felt so like I was a little bit older, I think, than this. It was past high school, maybe. I don't even know. But I just remember this being a distinct memory with her, is that I just remember feeling like, wow, like this is so freeing. And this is what love feels like. It's not just God is love and this is what you have to do, blah, 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 you know, boom, boom, boom. And this is what it is. And this is what it has to look like. And I was a worship leader. I did so many Bible studies that I led. I was like I was deep into a lot of it, and I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go all in. And people would always tell me and like go out of their way to tell me, which they do this to everyone, honestly, if they're in the church and stuff. But like, they'd always be like, you have such a calling, blah, blah, blah. And, it makes you feel like you have something, like you have a community there, but it's not the community that like feels like, it just feels I can't explain it. Just like judgmental and like things that I don't enjoy and I don't like. I've even seen people on TikTok and it breaks my heart. I just think of this one person in particular, and they call it SSA, same-sex attraction. And he's like, I struggle with SSA, and the church is making him think that. And so many things like that. It's just so sad to me because I know exactly how that guy is feeling, and he's thinking he has that community feeling, and he's on this, like, I call it a Jesus high. And you're running with it, because I went on mission trips. I went to Uganda. I went to Madagascar. I did all things in my community and knocked on doors and prayed for people and all sorts of stuff. And it just never felt real. And when I started realizing that I was like into girls in any extent, every time I was singing on this big stage, I started like feeling guilty almost. I was just like, I'm like, I can't do this. Like but if anyone knows me, that's the one thing they'll say, like, I have plenty of flaws, but I am not fake. And that's kind of my biggest thing, is that it would eat away at me.
You seem quite sincere. You wear your heart on your sleeve and down to earth, which is really cool. And it's so interesting to talk to someone who's actually like that, because I don't feel like I have to filter through their like persona to try and get to like what truth is. So I really respect that. That's awesome. I remember actually the guy I had on the Colin, the guy I had on the first podcast, he said, I'll always have when he was in the closet, he's like, I'll always have same-sex attraction. He's like, but I'm not gay. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, I'd be like, oh, as long as I with I don't even know the word, but like as long as I don't have to, give in to temptation, it'll be fine. Or I thought of, I'm telling you, I've heard it all, but I was thinking maybe I'll be like Paul in the Bible, to where I was thinking like, he had the option. God, I don't even know if this is completely accurate, but this is what they always told me. They were like, basically, he could have gotten married and all that kind of thing and done his whole thing, and God would have blessed him, but he chose to stay single.
Yeah.
He got the, whatever. So I, in my mind, was like, man, I am yearning for a relationship. Like, I am so relational. Like, I love like being with people. Like, everybody has like that desire. I feel like at some point, maybe some people don't, but like a lot of people do. And it just wasn't me. And I was like, I don't want to be single my whole life. Like, I never felt God. Like, I mean, I felt something, but it wasn't, I don't even know. I still don't know what I believe with all that. But like, I couldn't tell if it was because of pressures or.
Yeah, but it's quite obvious to me that it's so blatantly obvious that you've just been deceived by the homosexual burial ground in your parents' backyard, because
I wasn't ready.
I told you I watched your whole TikTok.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that was like amazing. A passing one. Yeah, she was reaching with that one. She's thought all sorts of things.
I mean,
Jezebel demons or.
Not to rag on your parents at all, because I don't, and I'm not, I know they've done some very hurtful things to you and stuff, but these crazy ideas, like they're victims in themselves, like in regards to like.
That is a very good point. So I don't really talk about this a lot, actually, because a lot of people don't fully get, like, there's a lot of gay people that don't get this either, because they're just like, fuck that or whatever. And just like, I just don't like, I don't know. I just like to try to see the positives in things. I really do. And I have plenty of negatives to say about this whole situation and them and everything. Like, even with me, how I've handled some things with it. Like, I was just immature and things, but like I was having to kind of be my own parent. But at the end of the day, like you were saying, this is what people really need to try to grasp, is that their blinders are on. And they think that I am going to hell. And my mom, I know, cares about me. And I know and it like kind of breaks my heart. But like, I know she cares about me. And it's hard to admit that, because it's easier for me to write it off and be like, no, like, fuck that, they don't care about me. Like, it's, for some reason that's easier than saying they do care about me. And when people even comment, sometimes they're like, they love you, like they blah blah blah, like whatever it is. It stings for me to even say that, because I'm like, if like they love me, like even if you think I'm going to hell, this is a point I thought about recently. If they think I'm going to hell, I'm not going to be changing in this. I'm like, they think I am. That's the biggest point. But like, if they really got to the biggest point of it, and I could be talking to them right now, I'm not going to be changing in this. So if you can think I'm going to hell anyways, like, spend your last time on earth with someone loving them, But I don't know. It's just very wild to me that like people, it's hard to imagine them loving you and being so brainwashed. They think they're doing what's best for you. I mean, and it comes to a point, and I used to say that so on the opposite end, to where it was so much that I excused a lot of everything. So it's kind of hard to find that balance of, not excusing it, but like having an understanding to help yourself heal.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I've come to lately with a lot of it. Not fully, obviously, because it's still, it's always going to hit home to some extent, but where it's hard. But that's definitely a big factor.
I appreciate that you can acknowledge that, because it's a really big point. We have family members in my family who are like very, I'll say
It's
the
hard
word.
to find the word sometimes.
Conspiratorial. Yeah, I'm trying to be nice. They're very conspiratorial, but to the level where, flat Earth level. The world's
my
coming
parents.
To an end level.
Yeah, my parents are into. I might be butchering this, but is it QAnon?
QAnon. Yeah.
My parents are deep into that. They even went to a conference not too long ago in Texas, and this is a new thing. So this is something else that I'll get into, but not that part, but like, with our relationship, that's a big thing that's been.
I have a
page on Facebook for the conspiracies and stuff, so it's a lot.
The thing is, I think that what happens is, so with our family, we've had them rely on God for what they perceive as God for a long time, to get them through the heartbreaks of life, to get them through problems in their marriage, to get them through people passing, and they rely on this concept of God. And
like a hope. It gives them a hope. Yeah. Otherwise, like, what else is there sometimes? Yeah. I've thought about that too. Yeah.
And then when they leave that, like to kind of question that perspective, makes their whole like devaluates all that.
It's like trickles down, and it's
and
it's like a domino effect.
So when something that's quite like proven at this stage, things like evolution or something that makes them feel uncomfortable, the Big Bang or something, or the age of the Earth not being 6,000 years with Adam and Eve and stuff that's like pretty scientific. Like, we have a lot of scientific merit for it, and things being observable facts. This makes them so uncomfortable. And if they believe that science is a liar, and if science is a liar sometimes, what else are they lying about? And then they form these communities that go, they're lying here, and then it becomes this like self-perpetuating and circle jerk.
Their logic is circular reasoning, and I've always said this, and I didn't realize it until I just came to a point where I was like, I was trying to question, to understand, like to gain wisdom and, everything. And my dad's a doctor. Like, he's been educated, obviously education was different at that time or whatever. And they learned different things and, whatever, but he's a very smart guy. And I don't know if he'd be like this. Like, I'm not saying this to put it all on my mom. They very much so, or they go with each other with that, but I don't know where he'd be with all this, because he used to not be very, into the stuff, but, it's just interesting to see their thought process. They'll be like, well, Haley, where do you think the first person came from? And I'm like, I'm trying to ask, like, I'm trying to talk about it. They can't even let themselves go there and be like, I was like, that just doesn't make sense to me. Like, I'll just say certain things. And it's just very interesting. And a lot of the Bible is, translated incorrectly. And this is, people will cut their ears off right when I say that. But the funniest thing is they'll be like, you obviously don't know the Bible, talking to me. And I'll be like, actually, you don't. Because when I say this has made me go into this whole mindset so heavily because I wanted to know. I even told myself there's always going to be some bias, but I went into it. But genuinely, if there's a way to have no bias, I was like, God or whatever. I was like, God, tell me, show me if I'm wrong. And like homosexuality, like if it's actually a sin and I'm going to go to hell, blah, 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 like it's scared the crap out of me.
You want
to
know. You want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, if that in that case, I guess I would be like Paul and like these things, like that scared the mess out of me. So I was like, I was looking at the actual words, and there's one word in Greek I cannot even rightly say. And I've gone to every single verse that they pick and choose and cherry pick or whatever is what they call it here. And like, there's just certain, like the word homosexuality wasn't in the Bible until 1946. And so that is wild to me. It meant pedophilia at the time. If you looked at the two separate words that it actually means in the Greek, and then they try to throw in like Leviticus, like the Old Testament, which there's so many laws that was nailed to the cross when Jesus,
one chapter beforehand, they say in Leviticus 19, I think it might be, says not to wear clothing of two mixed fabrics.
Yes, or like I think that's bottom feeders or something you can't eat. I don't even know. There's a lot of stuff that or like certain types of clothing and things like that. So all of that was nailed to the cross with the Old Testament or whatever, or the Old Covenant is what it's called. But then they try to bring up Romans, and then if people would actually take the time to, dig into the actual word, it's always funny because since like they come at me with that, I'm like, y'all haven't even done that, but they won't do it. I really was kind of surprised with my dad. I thought he would when I said that, but it's because like you said, it's like the domino effect. Like they can't.
There's my new favorite thing at the moment is when someone tells me that the Bible is the perfect word of God, I ask them to tell me what Matthew 18, I'll put it on the screen, Matthew 18:10 says. And the reason I ask them to look at that is because there is no Matthew 18:10. It goes from Matthew 11, sorry. It goes from Matthew 18:11 to 12. And the reason is because the early translations, the King James Version, use manuscripts, and we've since found, can you hear that?
It's very faint, but
the newer manuscript, the earliest manuscripts were found since the King James was created in 1611, have shown that wasn't in there. So they just have to go from Matthew 10 to 12, which is funny for the perfect word of God.
Because what my parents would say in response to it, they'll be like, "Well, God put in what the Bible ended up like with what God wanted it to," and I said that makes no sense. If also it talks about how human, like nature or whatever, humans are imperfect, they sin, all these things. You expect all of these men, not like shitting on you because you're a man, but I'm saying like it's always been like certain like men like in the church, and the church has been corrupt. Like you've even seen like in the Catholic Church, like certain like they've been abusing their power. There've been so many, just all sorts of things, people translating things differently. And it's just very wild to me that like they just rationalize it by saying, and then my mom will also say, and a lot of people, not just her, this is when it's like talking to a wall, and I just shut down. They'll be like, well, God told me this, like I have my relationship with God, but by them saying that, it's downplaying my relationship with, because I especially at the time, like I don't know what I call it now, but at the time I was like, I still have a relationship with God. Like they'll be like, well, no, it's an abomination to be so they basically just don't think I have any form. They just basically just didn't matter. So when people usually
get to that stage where they say, God told me, I ask them, I say, okay, would you be able to pray? And you can take as much time as you need. You can get back to me in a year's time if you need to, but ask God what he wants me to know that will convince me of his existence.
Yep. And then they'll be like, well, you just have to have faith. And I was like,
yeah. and then you can watch this. This is so, this is exactly what happened in the debate I did recently. And then I said, can I talk to you about faith? And they said, yeah. And I said, if faith can lead me to Yahweh and lead you to Allah or Zeus, doesn't that demonstrate that faith is an unreliable pathway to truth? And then they paused for like 5 seconds and was like, no. And I was like, how?
Yeah. It's just like saying, okay, they'll be like saying like, okay, this shirt is this color. And they'll be like, okay, well, and they're like, they'll try to argue with nothing. Like it's wild to me. And I'm just, it just makes no sense. And at the end of the day, what it boils down to, it doesn't matter what you say, if you have certain type of sin or something they don't agree with, they'll just basically put you as ignorant in their mind and be like, well, you're just, turning, or they call me this is what I got all the time. Because I used to be like, I had my little, like teenagers do, like, but honestly, I didn't have as many of a rebellious phase. I never drank in high school. I never, not that it like, you know, whatever, do your own thing. But like, I just telling you, I was such a like into like church, and I didn't do any of these things. So I'm like, I really wasn't that, I was like the least bit rebellious, like, you know, whatever. But I even went on a Christian trolley bus as my prom, like, group. They wouldn't let me go with like the people I wanted to, because I was like super into, you know, whatever. It's very strange, the whole, you know, scene. But I don't know. They would be like, you're rebellious. You just want your way. You're so independent, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, honestly, y'all don't, like, they just, the more they would say, I'm like, y'all don't know me and my heart at all, because I'm a Pisces. I am so like, I am an emotional person. I care deeply. Like, because of them, I've like, you know, been able to like dissociate, and I don't think it's been able to. It's more so like, I don't want to. I have, and it's been rough, but you know.
Just to quickly touch, I really want to tell you this story where there's this pastor who's starting a church in our local community. So we live in like a new suburb kind of area in the Sunshine Coast, Australia, and there's this ad that came on Facebook that was like, I'm starting a church and blah 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 blah, and I said to the guy, I said, hey Shane, I'd like to ask you questions about your church, and I said, because I'm a member of the community, I'd like to know, and I said, what does your church teach about homosexuality? And I was like, obviously, different churches handle this differently, blah, blah, blah. And he replied in this long message, like privately, and he said, basically his argument was like, it was like, you know, a lot of text. But basically his argument was, Jesus loves people. We got to love Jesus. And then some people may have to, you know, we all have sin, and some people may have to walk away from their sin to follow Jesus. Right. And he goes, and this is just what the gospel is, blah, blah, blah. And I go, okay, cool. So I can understand that. That's at least a rational thought process he's got. And I said, I've got 3 problems with this, Shane. I said, my first problem is that these teachings are, we know that they're harmful. Teaching kids that, you know, that homosexuality is a sin, and that this part of them is not, is something that needs to be removed or cleansed or fixed, right? And I was like,
unnatural, as my parents
said.
said.
And I was like, but I could almost be okay with church teaching things that are harmful to humanity. I think if people want to do things that are harmful, I think we've got to have a conversation about how much harm do we want with freedom of speech and all that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But my second 2 points, I still had a huge issue with. And the second point was, you'll say that homosexuality is a sin, yet Jesus never mentioned homosexuality in the New Testament. Paul mentioned homosexuality, and the Old Testament mentioned homosexuality. And I was like, but the problem is the Old Testament also mentions slavery, how you can beat a slave, how you can own a slave, to take the virgin women for yourself, to
just
that
heinous
you can beat a
things
slave.
that we,
Yeah. Exodus 21 talks about how you to own Hebrew slaves and how you can own them for life, how you meant to give them away for 7 years, or to buy slaves from the nations around you, and those slaves you can give to your children as inheritance. Now, Jesus never spoke on slavery either, but Paul did, and Paul said, slaves obey your masters, even the cruel ones. And I said, so I was like, so when you say that you're teaching biblical morality, I'm sure that if I asked you, hey, is it okay for a Christian to own a slave? You'd say no. Where it's exactly the same. It was in the Old Testament. Jesus never mentioned it, like homosexuality. And Paul mentioned it and said, slaves, obey your masters, even the cruel ones. It was never reformed. So I said, I just don't know how you square this, because unless you're going to teach that slavery is moral for Christians, that is, and like they're going to say,
like, it's like good luck with that.
It means bond servant. It means
oh yeah,
you know,
there's always
employment. No. Forget the word then. The ownership of another human being as property.
Ugh.
If you're not going to say that that's okay, then you're not teaching biblical morality. You're teaching your own morality, just picked from parts of the Bible that you enjoy. And I said, so I'd like to comment. And he's left me on read. It's been about 5 days now, and I'm waiting for his response, because I know that I don't know how he can square. He can square and dot that.
And that's exactly it. And this is another thing that kind of made me just think of. It's like, then when we say these things, it's like, then they just get like live, a lot of people, not him, I'm saying, but just people in general, because I've had similar, similar type conversations, they get mad and they're just like, well, and then they write you off with something. But it's just
well,
very
you just want to sin.
Yeah. And I'm like,
Haley,
I'm really, exactly. I'm just trying to have like a conversation, like, and then they just can't do it. So it's just like, and a lot of times the ones that are so angry at the homosexuals are the ones that are struggling with it.
Yeah.
Because I used to be that person. I remember in high school, there's this one girl, I ended up apologizing to her later. I remember I tried to convert her even, like, and be like, or convert or whatever you want to call her. And I call it. And I was like, yeah, I think it was a sin. And I like the things I even said, looking back, like, I'm so glad she never like harmed herself or did anything, which I will bring that full circle at the end. Cause that's like a closing point more so, but it's just it's wild to me. But I want to get back on that, finish that little part of like the story. But so basically coming back, so after we went to that pride thing, it was just very like such a, nice moment. I just finally got to the point where I was like, I just need to know more. And like, a lot of kids, they'll look at porn. And I was, again, never a sexual like person. I just like, it wasn't like the thought of it. That's not something I was like seeking at the time. I was just very curious, like a lot of kids are, which to each its own, whatever. I was curious. So I looked it up, and it wasn't just like that. I looked up like lesbian, or like I looked up like certain types or whatever. I just looked up whatever, because I just didn't even know what it fully was or whatever, because I just wasn't aware. So I looked it up, and of course they immediately saw that there was like one thing, because they saw my journal or whatever. They immediately saw that there was something that was lesbian, but it was literally, there was a lot of everything. And it was just more so just seeing. And anyways, from then on out, that's when things escalated like horribly. And yeah, they can say that I was a rebellious kid or whatever, but I really I didn't do much of anything in high school. If anything, I was definitely like a bratty kid and stuff like that at times, looking back, and I've apologized for it as much as I can. But, I don't know what else. I don't remember a lot, but I do remember that I was kind of bratty and things like that. But also, I just remember the things that they said was like disrespectful, was me questioning them, like their beliefs, but not just trying to be rude about it, but just being like, hey. And then it just became a huge spiral, because then I'd get livid because I wasn't being heard and things like that. But more so, like, that's a huge, huge problem. I'm not downplaying that. Like that's a big thing with a lot of people. But also another big problem is I wanted to be able to I hate lying. I can't stand it. And if you, I don't even know, in the 2 messages that were shown on, those are only 2 messages on TikTok that, you get to see. But on one of the messages that is like in that, either in those or another one, they'd be like, you've told us so many lies, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, the only thing because at first, when I first started out, obviously, like, I'm not obviously, I mean, I shouldn't have, I remember like being like, no, I covering it up. And that is a lie. Like, I was covering it up because I didn't want to, I wasn't even sure, but like, I just didn't know. But more so, I stopped lying. And I finally got to the point, I just didn't tell them unless they directly asked me, because why would I put myself in that situation for more, mental harm? And, basically it was like, I finally told my mom, and this was like throughout college, the timeline's very strange, but like, I just remember being like, look, do you want me to tell you everything? Because I will. And because like I said, I was like, I finally just hit a point. I was just like, if you want me to, I will. They didn't yet, but then they basically, so right when I started going to college, this has been a whole thing. Like, we had so many huge blowout arguments because I wasn't really able to hang out with my friend Rachael anymore, but I really didn't have a crush on her at that point. It was just more so like, it was the first place I felt like safe, even though it's not like they were like going to harm me physically. It's just more so like gay safe, you know what I'm saying? But also I just felt like I was always walking on eggshells. What was that?
Do you mind if I ask, were you and Rachael, like you guys, is Rachael?
She's straight. Oh, okay. That's the funniest part. But like, she knows I have like an appreciation for her, because without her, yeah, I would have found out, but like, it was more so I probably would have found out way later, like way later. And I'm really grateful for her mom, even. I don't even know if she knows, because it's like more so like just seeing like her living her life and not in the bondage of all this
So
mess.
it was just more that they didn't like Rachel because you had a crush on her.
And more so, and that the fact that her mom was gay, so they thought that her demons were going to bounce on me or whatever. Yeah. So it was. That's why I wasn't able to go in that prom group, and I ended up having to go. Like, yes, some of these people were really cool in that prom group, but like at that point, people were pretty. I was pretty much so over church and things like this at that point. Not fully, but like I just was so over like a lot of stuff. I just didn't really want to. Not a lot of people knew that, but like I just was not wanting to be in that group. I wanted to go with like Rachael and them, but I had to stick with, this. And it's funny because I don't really like talking about my sister a lot because she still has like a relationship with her. I love my sister to death. She's the one person in my life that is in my family that is great. But this is very generic. She's straight. So she got to do whatever, like, it's not that she did anything bad and stuff like that, but she like could go whatever prom group, like, if anything, I was more like by the book, textbook, like legalistic, I guess, but that's kind of what they wanted, even though they wouldn't admit that. But like, I was very by the book and things. And so it was just very interesting. I didn't even have like a sip of alcohol. I remember having one sip of alcohol in high school, but I didn't even drink at all until like my second year of college or something. But so that was wild. But either way, so basically this is where it gets wild. They basically made me start going to see my mother's best friend. They're not best friend, but really close friend who went to their church at the time. Some reason they're not friends anymore, which I don't even understand. Their whole cult, they had a split separation. But her best friend, I know she used to have a license, but I've heard through the grapevine of many people that like it doesn't. This is a thing in America. I don't know how it is other places, but like the church can still get away with so much in religious places like this because they can call it a ministry and do Christian help and like Christian counseling, but not therapy. So they can get away with anything. Even if she wasn't licensed, it wouldn't have mattered. I genuinely don't know. I think she might be. I don't know. Either way, it's just wild.
I know a counselor that is super well respected, and he slept with one of his clients when he had a wife, and he blames her and says she came on to me, and he had to step down from ministry for like a year, and now he's back running his own church, or like being a big part of his own church. And everyone's like, "Yeah, good man, like holy."
Oh well, I don't even mind. I don't even mind saying this on this at all because they air my stuff out and everything. It's not about airing it out. It's just more so the fact of the matter is that they're, my dad. There's been, what's the word? Indiscretion. There's been some things that are against the Bible, let's say, in the marriage, that it's just very interesting that, and it wasn't just a one-time thing that like, that happened. And I'm just like, I'm like, that's interesting. But like, since I guess it's not, they always said it's a habitual sin. I can't stand the word lifestyle. If someone says that to me, I literally want to punch them, but I'm like, that's what word that makes me mad. And it's funny because I used to even say that and call it like in the song, Dear Mom and Dad, there's this one part that says, like my life, I wouldn't choose my life. I literally had the word lifestyle in it for so long before I recorded it. I remember hearing it in the car, and this is when things were switching internally in me. And I was like, this is not a lifestyle. Like that's just, you say the heterosexual lifestyle, like that just sounds silly as fuck. Like shut up. Like that's so makes me so mad.
Colin, my Colin, that sorry to keep interrupting. I've just got so many things. I want to bring up.
It's a wild story, all of it.
Okay. Colin, the one I interviewed in the Deep Drinks, the first episode, he was like, I don't know who would choose this life. Like he's like, you get persecuted.
Literally,
everyone.
That's what people don't get. Yeah. They're like, well, you had someone. It feels good, and I'm like, yeah, but there's a lot of things that feel good that I'm just like, this is not like that. Like
eating cheese feels good, but it's not a lifestyle.
I'm like, no.
But like, and he had this one friend of his from ministry on her fourth marriage, explaining to him how the homosexuals are trying to ruin the sanctity of marriage. And I'm like, and he's like, I can't.
And I'm like,
and if you say anything, she blows up, screams, and runs out of the room, and then you're the one who's like. Yes.
And they're literally like, there's so many things there's there's just some things that I can't say on this, but it's just very wild that you hear some things that you're just like, you're calling me this. And they also always like refer to homosexuals as pedophiles. I can't stand that. They're like, or bestiality or something. They'll be like, since you can't, where are we going to draw the line? If you can have sex with a woman, what about a kid? Is that what's going to be next? And I said there was this one thing on Facebook that it was trending not too long ago, and it was some weird sign that I've never even seen before. And I dug into it because I wanted to know, because I had a feeling, and I was right. But basically it was this whole thing, and they made it seem like the gays started this whole trend about like how making pedophile, like, what is it, like making it seem fine. There's a word for it, I just can't think of it. Normalizing it.
Maps. Yeah.
I don't even know, but basically they were trying to normalize that and put it in with the word, the LGBTQ.
Oh, yeah. So it's like LGBT.
Yeah. And I was like, we were like, I was like, I bet you money a Christian started this and is putting it on us. And that is exactly what it was. I literally was researching it. Yeah. And this is a huge thing. People will do this all the time and troll us because it just comes back on us because, like, I mean, it's just very, like, what is that logic? Like, it's two consensual
it's
adults,
weird, hey.
And we're both about of age. Like, it makes no sense. Like, relationship, that it's just wild.
That's what I said to Shane as well, the pastor from this area. I said, Shane, I was like, the Bible is explicitly not talking about two people who love, monogamous people who love each other in like a marriage. They're talking, like, I was like, you can't say that has anything to do with the homosexuality we see today.
And they're like, well, it's also not Adam and Steve. It's
yeah. Do you know what?
That's a great argument. If you said that in any other debate, wow, like
it's Adam and I come up with a quote for that. It was
if someone said that, like, do they expect that quote right there? They say that all the time. Okay, I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go kiss a man. I'm gonna go sleep with a man now. Thank you.
It's Adam and Eve. It's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, unless Steve isn't into Eve. That's what I come up with. And then another thing I said is another thing I thought of is it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. It's also myth. So it's like, yes. Or have you heard about?
And something that goes with that, it's like, okay, so you're coming at me. It's always it's always the misogynistic type men. Usually these country bumpkins that are
who bench press a lot,
whatever.
And have, piercings. Yeah.
Yes, and hopped off look like they just hopped off of like Duck Dynasty season, whatever. And I'm like, okay, look. They say just the craziest things. And I'm like, okay, sir, let me see your search history. Have you ever searched? Are you like watching any of this stuff? Because, like if you're watching it and partaking in it, which I bet you money, majority of them are like watching lesbian porn, because they're the same people that are like, oh, can I watch or can I do this? And I'm like,
who? Yeah, I have a theory. I think lesbian porn is the most accepted. I think who doesn't love lesbian porn? I don't know anyone.
Exactly. I'm like,
I think even straight. I know straight girls who watch lesbian porn.
That can. They'll be like, I mean, they won't obviously get off it, but they'll be like, it's just interesting. Like they're very beautiful women, like like. But I'm like, but if you're gonna judge that, like, they're the same people that I would love to see their search history. That's what I've always said, But
do you remember Pastor Ted Haggard?
That name sounds so familiar.
He was this preacher evangelical preacher that every Sunday would preach against the homosexual lifestyle or the gays. And then
the gays are coming. I have a shirt that says that.
The gays are coming.
Like
please, how is the word coming spelled?
Good question. I don't know. If it's not spelled that way, they should have. His regular gay prostitute that he would hire came out and spoke out against him because he would preach against the gays on the Sunday, but then on the Saturday night he'd be doing meth with this gay prostitute and banging him all night. Like, and it's like, man, like I wonder how many of these like really anti-gay pastors are just. If you have you ever seen the show or the movie that's on Netflix not too long ago? It was like Pray Away.
Yeah. I was actually going to ask you.
Wild, yeah. That was eye-opening, and that's something that I resonated with a lot of the stuff. So I don't call the therapy. So basically, I don't know if I said that. So basically, my parents gave me an ultimatum, And they were like,
okay,
all of a sudden.
is this the straw? Is this the straw that broke the
There's two different straws, but this is one of them.
Right.
But I went for a long time. So basically, my parents, all of a sudden, like I had no warning. Like I know they kicked me out for like 2 weeks, but I lived with like my best friend or something. Just a whole mess. Like literally on graduation, I remember there was like a buildup, and I just didn't want to be around any of them because they made me feel like crap for so long. And so, yeah, I wasn't going to be all happy. So they're pissed that I'm not being the grateful, kid that they've always had, And so, yes, I should have handled some things different. But again, and I don't mean to excuse it because I was a kid, but like also like at the same time, a lot of the things I had a right to not want to be buddy with my family and certain things. But I remember it was crazy. On my graduation, I accidentally bumped into my grandpa's car. Great, of course. Like my life is just a series of shit show events. But my mom came out in front of everyone because this was literally a pile up of things. She was like, "This is a representation of your life." And I was like, never have forgotten that phrase. And I was like, okay, well, so I lived with my best friend after that. They put all my stuff in trash bags and we threw it out my window, and then we went and packed it up with them. Basically, reality hit me because I was like financially I'd worked my whole since I was like 16. Chick-fil-A, by the way, funny as it is because ironic. Wow. I worked there for 6 years and managed.
We don't have it in Australia, so but
yeah,
are they like really anti-gay or something? Or?
Yeah, and yeah, that's a whole even. Yeah.
Well, hang
6 years
on
of
a
my
sec.
life with that.
I need to stop you because I just want to be careful of time. Are you okay to keep talking? Like, how long have you got? I'll talk forever,
I have plenty of time. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So we normally do like 60 to 90 minutes, but if we can go longer, that's totally cool. I'm enjoying this conversation a lot. I also want to get some ice for my drink so I can continue keeping a buzz. Yeah. Okay, we're back from our little intermission.
Round two.
And obviously, as this goes on, the alcohol will take effect, and I imagine the conversation will get more debaucherous or go into some weird directions. So
for sure,
we'll both end up crying by the end.
That's the goal. Story. That's the goal. It doesn't take much for me. I'm like, yes, my parents basically, they gave me an ultimatum, and but they did it. They would never call it that. They do it in a way where they make you. It's super gaslighting. This is a lot of Christians. I'm not just saying just my parents. Like I know a lot of people do it. They basically and I even thought this for the longest time, just like they made me feel like I was being disrespectful for questioning them. They made me feel like I wanted to do these things, but basically I would have had no financial support all of a sudden. And I was going to call it like already like enrolled, like doing things. It was a train wreck. And so it wasn't just like financial, like freaking me out because I knew that I could do it. I ended up having 3 jobs at one point. Like I paid off all my student loans by myself towards the end. Like I'm proud of where I am with all that by myself. But at the time I think it was like not even a full year or a year. I don't even really know. It might've been, I don't even know. But basically I think it was like 2 years actually where they were partially doing some stuff. And with that, and they were also like, look, we will still have you in the family as well. And when I say my family, it includes my grandparents, my aunt and uncle. I do have one really, really cool uncle. It's my dad's brother, but I don't even really know if he claims him anymore. But he's bi. He's very like open and free, and like he's a Christian. He's just been there for me, and he's like the first person out of the family that I called. Other than like, my parents, I didn't really get to come out to, which, whatever. But I knew that but we don't really see them a lot ever. So I didn't like my close family. I knew I was going to lose them all. And I just knew that if I didn't do what they were telling me and go to this therapy, and they don't trust normal therapy, which that's what I'm going into now because I think it's kind of the devil almost. It has to be like a Christian counseling type thing. And so they're like, if you don't, do it, basically, then I'm going to lose them all. And eventually I did, but I had to kind of come to terms with that because that's a lot to lose all at once. And it was very overwhelming and super stressful. And I was at a very, very low point. And so I chose to, and a part of me was still very much so brainwashed. Like I was tired of the church at some parts, but then a part of me just kept getting drawn back in because I was so scared of hell because I was being, scared into submission. And that's not, even if you use their own words against them, even if you don't believe in God, that God is not a God of shame, like he's a God of conviction, but not shame. And I never felt convicted about any of these things. It was always shame and condemnation. There's a difference. And so basically I was going to this therapy, and there were some things like you could do like normal therapy, and like it was like you talk about some normal stuff, but there was a lot of stuff that was just, I don't even know. Like, that's why I call it gay therapy, not conversion therapy, because it's not like the typical, like, they're not hooking me up. I have some friends that have had to go through like like just certain things that you see on TV, I guess. But a lot of the stuff is just subtle brainwash. And something I'm going to be showing on TikTok soon. I thought I'd be able to like joke about it, I guess, and stuff, kind of, because I did joke about it at first, was the 5 stages of homosexuality. But I emailed my she used to be gay is what she said. So either she was bi or something along the lines, or she was, I don't even know. I don't, or she still is. She always radiated that to me that she was. So I was always like, it was a very strange dynamic. She was like, no, I've been delivered. That's the word they use. They don't really, my mom is basically, sorry, I'm jumping everywhere, but basically my mom's like an exorcist without the title. Let me throw this in there. Official title that you hear from like, like the Catholic Church and things like that. But like, she does that kind of thing. They call it deliverance. And so my old, used to be gay therapist, which I only say her first name, Valerie, she, said that she's been delivered, and they've tried to like pray those out of me. It's just certain things. It's just very, very wild. I know that's a lot.
There's so many things that like I've wanted to interject like 5 times, but I really want to hear your story. But like I had the exact same thing. You know that you have a TikTok where you think that you thought you were going to be delivered, like the Benny Hinn, like foaming at the mouth.
Oh yeah.
Like the gay is gone. I had that exact same thing. When I went through a really rough stage in my life and kind of came back to church when Amy and I first got together, and I went to see pastors and counselors and worship leaders and everyone I could, waiting for this experience, trying to I was like, I need to be delivered. And they kept saying, maybe, I don't know if you need to be delivered or like
you want to be, it's like you want to change, I guess, because you want to, you don't want to disappoint people, but you also want to do it for yourself because you see that that's what you're supposed to, be doing.
Yeah, and I had internal things going on and anxieties and depression and stuff that I wanted to be delivered from. And I thought I had broken myself by, walking away and smoking weed and all this stuff. I thought that I was like broken and I needed to be delivered. I had demons and stuff. And I had this like experience once when I was high where I felt like what I would call like demons enter the room or whatever. But now looking back, I just go, no, that was just an intrusive thought. But I remember thinking that I had like demons and the same thing that I wanted to be delivered from.
Well, if anything, the religious parts of that, because I've had the same thing happen, it definitely intrusive thought and stuff, but it's like your mind, since you've had all that prior stuff, it's like almost just like paranoia. I think that the religious stuff just hops in there because it wants to scare you, the psycho, like you probably wouldn't have even thought about that. You just been like, oh, it's just a passing thing. But since you know all that stuff, that's why I can't smoke, because I told my friends, like, it's just really hard to explain. Like, they'll be like, I'll be like, it almost like just makes me feel like I'm on some like hallucinogenic almost, because like, which I'm just saying, like, because it's just not a good experience for me because I think about everything that you were just saying even, but continue what you were saying.
It's so, just to duck over to what you said before about the psychology too, is I went to so many Christian counselors, and I had but this one time my parents really sat me down and they're like, Dave, you need to go to a psychologist. And I was like, no. And I was like, no, like, go to a psychologist. Like, just nothing's bad is going to happen. Just go see one. And I go and see one. And the first I had these intrusive thoughts that I thought were the voice of God. And the voice of God was telling me, and I hope you don't mind me kind of spending some time to explain this, but essentially I was making this thing, this jewelry box for Amy. And I felt like I just stepped forward in my relationship with God. So I was making this jewelry box. Me and her were just getting together, and I was making this jewelry box for her. And I was like listening to worship music, listening to the Hillsong, I think it was. And I just felt this feeling like I'm going to open my heart back up to God. And I'm going to like open that up and I'm going to pray to God. And because I just feel so happy right now. And I did. And as soon as I did that process of like internally feeling like I opened up my heart and prayed to God, I heard this booming voice, not heard, but like felt this booming thing say,
during
break
your,
up with
like
Amy.
almost during like your Jesus high almost.
Yeah. And it said, break up with Amy. And I went, whoa. And I held back and I was just like, what are you? And I was like, and I was like, this is the voice of God telling me to break up with Amy. I had a massive panic attack. I was vomiting. Like I ran outside and I was vomiting from this because I was like, I'm going to break Amy's heart. God just told me to break up with Amy. And this is what my parents said, go to a psychologist. And I was going to counselors, and every Christian counselor I said, like would say, they were saying, no, the Bible usually brings people together and there's nothing that you guys are doing. Like you're both kind of, your relationship's actually helping you both in your walk with God, and you're both going to church a lot. And like this, like everyone, all the pastors and counselors I was talking to were saying, that doesn't seem right. So I go to this psychologist, right? First session of the psychologist goes, all right, do you feel just like a checkbox of stuff? And I was like, this guy is just crap. The next time I go there, and this was a breaking point for me. He said, okay, he talked to me about this and he goes, because he asked me the previous one, what's your thoughts? What are going through your head when you're having a panic attack? What's like at the peak? And I said, oh, it's God wants me to break up with Amy. And I'm sitting in the psychologist's office and I'm Christian, really strong Christian. And he says, I want you to repeat out loud, God wants me to break up with Amy. And I said, no. I said, no, I can't do that, because if I say it, I'm confessing something into the world. And then, what if I...
Yeah, you're speaking blessings and curses. That's what my mom always said. And you were speaking it. And I literally was just talking to someone about that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I was like, I can't do this. And he's like, I'm like, what if I push past you, run out the door, get on the phone and break up with her over the phone? And he's like, would I be a good psychologist if I didn't know what I was doing? And I'm like, no. I was like, oh, and I argued with him for a while. And I was like, fine, I'll do it. And I sat there and I said, what if God wants me to break up with Amy? And he's like, do it again. And I was like, what if God wants me to break up with Amy? He's like, do it again. And I was like, I'm getting a panic. And he's like, do it again. I'm like, what if God wants to break up with Amy? And he's like, do it again. And he kept making me do it. And I'm like, okay, I'm panicking now. And I was actually having like this full-on panic attack in his office. And I'm looking for a bin to vomit in because it was getting that internally intense, right? God. And he's like, say it again. And I'm like, what if God wants to break up with Amy? He's like, say it again. I'm like, what if God wants to break up with Amy? He's like, say it again. I'm like, what if? And then all of a sudden it was like, click. And it was like, what if God wants me to break up with Amy? He's like, say it again. I'm like, what if God wants me to? And he's like, say it again. I'm like, what if God wants me? And I was like, why am I thinking this? And all the anxiety, everything just left, like some sort of spiritual, like cleansing,
aha,
like this
moment. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, I was like, why did I even think that? And it was like all that power that I had. Anyway, long story short, what I used to call the voice of God was just an OCD tick. And
dude, that's literally what I've been having. I still have to I'm like really bad about it still.
No.
Like I'm always like what? Yeah. Like is that it? And also I have to remind myself, even if sometimes I have to use, like I say, use their own logic against them. Sometimes I have to use my old logic against my own self. And I'll be like, wait, no, because if God's a God of peace, then that's not like, I'm not feeling like I have to like rationalize, sometimes, and I don't even believe like a lot of that stuff I did, but but that makes total sense. 100% what you're saying. Cause I resonate with that. And I'm I still catch myself, like, even if I say something that normal people would be like, what? I'm like, I can't say that. Like, cause like speaking something, into, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
exactly.
Wild.
But yeah, can I ask you just quickly? So you don't consider yourself religious per se. You may have some.
I call myself spiritual, and yes, like I just hate the word like, Christian itself, but I don't hate Christians. I just, I don't know. It's just like because of the trauma with it. It's just
you love the religious, just not the religion.
Yes. Yeah,
I hope you get that reference. You get that reference?
Yes.
Yeah. Love the sin, hate the sin.
that is like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out still, but like I want to say I have a relationship with something. Like sometimes I'll even say Mother Nature or like the universe, or I don't know what I call it, but I just know that I'm connected to some, like I've just seen some things though, like there is. People want to call it the demonic or whatever. I'm not saying I've just witnessed some things that I can't explain.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put, I just think there's some things in the universe that probably should not ever be touched or like like there's just something like, I don't even know what it is. Like even people that are believing like witchcraft or something, there's always something that someone doesn't, agree with. And I think is probably whatever my mom has dug into, because we just seen some interesting things, to say the least.
It's one thing too. Like I have a lot of like spiritual experiences that I've had, like incredible experiences throughout my life. I remember one time I think we saw gold dust appear in someone's hand at church.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
That I don't even really understand, or I've seen, like, if you want to call it demonic or whatever, I've seen someone foam at the mouth right after we read a Bible verse that spoke about that, or I've seen my mom do her own little thing. Like it's interesting. Wow. And I've even had that like type of thing done. And I even tried, like, I was so into it, and I thought that my mom, what she was doing was like normal, that I've even prayed over like whatever, tried to do that with my friend one time, and had a very weird, like, I was younger, and we both still to this day have no idea how to explain any of the stuff that happened. And ever since, we've just had some very, like, we call it like our house was haunted. We had weird stuff happen that we just don't even know how to explain, that I just wish we would have never even remotely gotten into,
Well, just before we get back to your story, my take on all that stuff is two things. One, if we don't understand it, or we can't explain it, that's their answer. I don't know what it was. I can't explain it. And
that's
secondly,
that's exactly what it is. You just have to just accept it, but some people don't. And that's when I'm like, that's when just weird things happen and bad things start happening that follow it, I feel like,
Yeah.
Like,
well, the second thing is not attaching a truth claim to those. So I've had some spiritual experiences, but I don't go, therefore XYZ, because other religions could do the same thing. Sathya Sai Baba of India raised 4 people from the dead.
No one would admit that, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, back to your journey.
I'm trying to hurry it up for it's just don't
hurry it up. Take your time, because don't take your time. Maybe we can. I'll just have a look at like some of the things I put down. So you at this point you've kind of
basically at this point they're trying to make me understand why I am the way I am, and what I'm going to go into on my TikTok at some point, because it's like a whole thing. But what I was reading, I emailed my used to be gay therapist Valerie, and I was like, hey, I want to see these 5 stages of homosexuality again. And I thought honestly I was going to laugh at them, and I really thought that, because I do like the concept of it. It's just silly to me. But I started reading them, and I genuinely did not realize how much I'd associated during a lot of that stuff. I just remember sitting there like spaced out. I don't, like, when I say I don't remember a lot of my childhood, like it wasn't not that some of, like, a lot of it was bad or anything. I just don't remember, because a lot of it's just so closeted or whatever. Or fake. Because even if it wasn't the gay stuff, I was always scared of disappointing my parents and things like that. So I just was always like on my eggshells. But basically, I don't know. It's just very interesting, because when I was reading those 5 stages of homosexuality, I just started weeping. I sent it to one of my best friends who's also a lesbian, and we were just like, I was like, wow, like this is why my mindset has been so, like, I'm glad I saw it, honestly, because I have been so even still brainwashed about some things, because I call it like hypnosis, but it's not that's not what they did, necessarily. But basically they make you think that, like, I genuinely have, so trigger warning for some people out there, but like I genuinely believed for the longest time, and I had no recollection, no memory, no anything of this until people kept putting these ideas in my head that since I was gay or having these gay struggles, that I was hurt or abused or like molested as a child, or maybe I just didn't remember it. So I even done this thing called like Sozo or something. This is like a big thing. I don't know if you've heard of that. They do it like, I think even at Bethel, which is a big church. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I know Bethel. Yeah, I can't.
They do
Bethel.
Sozo there, but I don't know what type of version they do. They do these branched off versions, but this one isn't necessarily like, this isn't like gay related. This is just more so like they dig into your dreams. Like I've done so many things that it's like has gone alongside this and separately. Like I won't tell them, but what's up?
So are you saying that? So you saying that you don't believe you actually were like abused or had some traumatic experience, but
now I know. I want to say that I know that I was not, but they put these ideas in my head so heavily, like even like,
Whoa.
well, my previous ex, is like a recent like breakup, but she, like even one like time we were just laying in bed and I've never like experienced this, but she was just like holding me, and I even literally, it felt like a vision. I don't even know how to, like a, not a vision, but like a visual flashback of like somebody like touching me inappropriately, I guess if that's how to word it, like doing something that wasn't, not like it didn't happen. And I can genuinely say that now in confidence that it didn't, I think at least. And if it did, I was so young, like it wasn't something that I just dissociated and like cut off, because I've literally been trying to dig into this, but like they've put these ideas, like they didn't, and a lot of times they'll do it. They won't be like, I didn't tell you that you were, but they plant these seeds and ideas and ideas and ideas. Like, are you sure? Like, was it like, you know, or did I fail you as a parent because of this? Or like just certain things. And I was like, I don't know. And so I don't know when like that became like, and I don't know. It's just been always in the back of my mind. And that is like, it's, I don't want to downplay people that have actually been through that trauma, because that is the, like, it's so severe. It's so severe. And no, this isn't in comparison. I just know that it has affected me personally, this whole separate thing of, it's made me have these envision like things that are just not accurate. I don't think they are, or just things that I don't think I would have ever thought of. And so, yeah. To rationalize the fact that I'm like gay, because they think that you opened a door. And since you opened a door, which my door was porn, but they think that my door also could have been more so, because they think the next step or whatever, if that's, I have to read the whole thing, but it was like, it's like doing something physical or something like that. And yes, a lot of people in our, you know, community, but there's also a lot of people that have been abused and things, but I don't know.
Wait, so I've seen gay porn. Does that mean that I'm in the first stage of homosexuality? I mean, I didn't like touch myself or anything. I just saw it.
Yeah, like, it's wild. Like, I don't know, but like, I genuinely believe that. And that is one of the most like messed up things. And like the fact that like I've come a long way with all of this, but like the fact that not even that long ago, I had a physical feeling of like flashback that I've never had that happen before. It shows how deeply rooted. And even in that movie, Pray Away, I saw that they were like saying that, have you, you know, they try to basically manipulate your brain to make you think that, and like try to think of like these, and if you think about something enough, you can like make these false like memories or false thoughts and things like that. Just like in the court system, like they try to like say you can't like, you know, persuade them, like if you guided questions or certain things to lead you to a certain thing, like you're not supposed to do that. That's exactly what was happening. And so that was definitely messed up.
I don't know, I'm rusty on this, but I think that isn't there some sort of correlation between being abused when you're younger and having like a asexual, not asexual.
There's definitely, yes, yeah, there definitely is. And so, but it doesn't mean, you know, like I know
it's not always the case. Yeah.
Yes, and I know of some like, you know, people like very close to me that have gone through that and that I identify as bi. Now, and they even told me, they're like, yeah, I don't know, like if I wouldn't have before, but they, you know, they have their whole like trauma and healing they have to go through with their whole process. And so a lot of times, sometimes, you know, everybody's different, but a lot of the ones that I've talked to, they'll be like, you know, I have to like just come to terms with, you know, well, it's like very hard for them to do, but like they had to come to terms to, well, now this is what it is now, you know, because if you dwell too much on what it was before, you know, so even then that's kind of how I had to go about it. Because I literally, like, even still to this day, it's hard for me to say, no, I was not, definitely, because I don't know, like if I was a baby or something like that, I don't know. And so it's one of those things, like I think I've just had to come to terms with, like, you know what, regardless, I am a lesbian now. And so, but there's definitely a correlation. Like there's been so many people that have just been like, it's sad that how bad of an issue that is, that it definitely, I think, puts thoughts in people's heads they probably wouldn't have had before. But either way, I mean, people get to their own conclusion about things and their own path, you know, sadly, how they have to go. Sometimes it just sucks how things get tainted along the way. But like, hopefully everybody finds who they want to love, you know, regardless. But it's just sad.
Exactly. It is sad. But we kind of we both must have a little bit of ADD or something, because we jump around like crazy, and so I'm enjoying this. I don't know how much the audience will enjoy our jumping around, but this is great for me. But you actually mentioned at the start you were quite asexual, I guess.
Yes.
At the start of your life when you were a baby.
Yes.
But growing up, but now I get the vibe that you're definitely not asexual, that you definitely love.
No, I am definitely not. Once I started to, get into that, like, it took me a long time to just like be comfortable enough, and like, because every once in a while I'll still kiss a girl, even kiss, and a random thought will trigger in my head, but you just have to like, like shut the fuck up basically. But after I started like having sex with women that I actually enjoyed and liked, and like not just for like physical, because a lot of women are, I will say it's different for guys, I feel like a lot of times, but not every guy. A lot of women as a whole, and this is a stereotype, but and some people aren't like this, but like are very emotionally, like they have to have like emotional connection. So I didn't know I was, but once I've had the first emotional connection with a woman and sexual, that's when my whole eyes opened, I feel like. And then I was like, yep, I'm not going back. Like, fuck that.
Yeah. So, and it must be so freeing. Like, I remember watching one of your TikToks, and I was like, what is she? You're looking at, you had this like contraption, and for the half of the video, I had no idea.
My first one got taken down, but that one didn't. So I was like, whatever.
And it was like,
it went from 0 to 100 real quick.
Yeah, like a review.
But
I
saw it online. Some people are like, well, you can have the Christian's views or whoever's views. They'll be like, well, you just, you went in stage 5 gay, basically, is what I was like to call it now.
Yeah.
But in actuality, you're in hell, but you're like, reaching up.
If you got toys that plug into the wall, that's stage 6.
Exactly. So, but basically I was like, it's more so, and I've heard everyone describe it like this, because at first I felt like, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just like hypersexual now, like that, the center that, took a turn, then it's just going downhill. And I was like, no, actually, we've been closeted our whole lives, or we've been told it's wrong. And then once you realize and come to the freeing realization that, be safe with like what you do and like, whatever. But I personally, I'm like, I'm going to do what I want to do. And like, I have been in a 2-year relationship this past, 2 years, but like over that time, like before that, I've been having, like, I've had my fun. I've had some like couple relationships, but and that is the funniest part though. That's when my mom came back. There were a couple of things, and she was like, she kept trying to say, I can't stand when people are like, you lied. And I told you I said that before. I was like, okay, you know what? You keep bringing it up. So apparently you do want to know. And this is when I got a little sassy, because this is my personality if you push me, I'm a Pisces, like I said, but if you push me, I will get to that point. And I was like, if you want to know everything, and I listed out every sexual thing I've ever done with a woman.
That is so good.
I was like, Hayley, you can take that to God. So I was like,
Hayley,
you wanted to know, I told you. And I thought that the woman was going to have a heart attack. R.I.P.
Girl, is this when she said girl juices shouldn't mix?
Yes. That was one of the last things. Girls' juices shouldn't mix. And that made me want to throw up a little bit. Every time I drink juice, I think girls' juices shouldn't mix, Hayley. Like,
it's like the
like that's the worst way to work. I was like, I'm like, God couldn't change me, but like turn me. But if anything could, saying girls' juices shouldn't mix, that might.
It's like the word. It's like when someone describes a cake as moist. It's just like, I'm not having any. I'm not having. Like,
golly, like, but yeah. So that took a whole different turn, and my parents know that now. So that's always lovely. And not to mention, like, I've just gotten more like comfortable with my body. I used to wear turtlenecks. You can even see it in my past. Like, I was so. I was modest, and then I did a nude photo shoot. And when I say I posted, like, obviously like the parts covered on Instagram, but like my parents, they saw that people were sending it to them, because that's how my small town was, sending it to them like crazy. And so that was fun, but I went out with a bang when I came out, to say the least. Literal bang. Just
that is awesome. I remember actually seeing, like, I think you showed some like photos from like a naked shoot or something in some of your TikToks. And I was like, I went and like showed my wife, and I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like, and because like there's something so, it's like, a lot of
It's
what
just
my
a
Christian
whole
friends do.
different.
Well, it's such a, you can see the freedom in it, right? Like I've got
Yeah.
no problem with like, nudity,
It's just like
pornography.
art,
Like
and that's what I
or-
told them. Like, and even tattoos. Like, I when I say I went a whole different route, I definitely did. Like, I have a love is love tattoo. I have two girls kissing. So it's hard to see because it's all like abstract. But I have
yeah,
two girls kissing right there. We got it all. So that's
that's so
lovely.
cool. Yeah,
But
because a lot of my Christian friends don't understand the whole pride thing, like gay pride parades and stuff. And
I even got a comment the
I
other day that was like, it was, what did it say? It was like, y'all aren't oppressed anymore. I'm like,
yeah, it's not about that. Like even if society was like, even if it was like absolutely no oppression from society,
yeah.
like
And even then,
well,
there still
I'm
is.
telling you
Yeah.
what the gays or the homosexuals,
No,
the gays feel. But like I can imagine that battle within yourself of like, am I gay, am I not gay, or maybe I'm gay, like that whole like internal conflict just comes back and forth, and eventually when you go, you know what, I actually am gay, it's such a freeing feeling that it makes sense. The pride parades make sense. You're celebrating who you are without any shame, and that's beautiful.
It's and I thought the same thing, because I first, even when I started, like, and I'm still like learning a lot and having to like be open-minded to some things because I'm so not used to it. I'm learning daily, and that's why my bio is what it is on TikTok, like like a little lesbo, like educating themselves daily, because I know I have had my like just so many things in life that it's like embarrassing almost looking back, but I'm learning, and I'm taking pride in what my own journey, and like the fact that I'm alive, honestly, because I've been to the darkest places that people can go to sometimes with still being alive. And that's a point. I was going to say it till the end, but I want to say this real quick, and this is very important to me, that so many people deal with suicidal thoughts. I'm just going to say it. And in this community, and I cannot stand. And if there are any Christians watching, like, shout out to you for like, because I'm the ones that are probably watching, I'm probably like not talking to you necessarily, like, because you're open enough to even listen to this, but tell your friends, spread the word that like, I can't stand, and so many people can't stand when people are like, the people that take their lives because of this, or even that struggle and think about it, and like, it's awful. It sucks. Like, it's terrible. It's a terrible feeling. They always try to blame our demons. They try to blame, oh, they were just so troubled. They try to write our death off pretty much, or our struggles and pain, when we would not have this pain. The blood is on their hands. Like, I want to say that to the world because people do not say it. And that's one of the things, like, truthfully, that kept me alive during one of the times that it was a hard time. I'm going to be completely honest with you, because I remember thinking, look, one, I have my sister who like couldn't, like, I love her to death. But two, it's like they think of any kind of like negative thing against them, if you call them out or whatever, they're like, it's just persecution. So they take it as a good thing. All these negative things that I could say or whatever, they're like, this is we're doing God's will if we're getting persecuted. And I'm like, no, we're calling you higher, calling you out, because y'all are responsible for these people's deaths. I would not have my internal demons and struggles or whatever. Whenever I'm living my best gay life, I am happy and I'm feeling great. And but they hate that word happy too, because they're like, well, happiness is temporary. And I'm like, oh, you just can't win with them. But like, at the same time,
sin is very pleasurable. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And
it's like you can't argue with them.
Yeah.
But I think people need to realize that we would be fine. It's more so that, and there's some people that wouldn't, but like, for the most part, everybody I've talked to and myself, it's like, even if I would have done that, I just remember thinking, look, yes, like, I feel like my spirit, like my whatever, even if there is, I don't know what's happening after death and stuff, but like, they would somehow just blame it on the devil, when in actuality, the devil of the situation is them. And that's something I wanted to point across, because there would be so many more lives in the world, not just Christians, but just people that persecute the homosexuals, because it's so hard and it's such a burden and feeling of like that you're a piece of shit, basically, because you're existing and you're just trying to love someone in a relationship that's consensual. Like it's hard, but that's something I'm very passionate about, and I wanted to make that clear.
Well, it's really good that you shared that. It's the other thing too about all this is, you know, and about what like people are saying it's demons, like you were mentioning before. Who gives the devil and the demons their power?
Exactly. Like
how do you, like, what do you mean? Like, it's so weird to me, because it's like they believe God is behind everything. Yeah. So I don't know.
Well, they'll be like, if you're like, they're like, the gays are so angry, and so, well, you just seem angry. Like, you can see, if you read my comment section, you'll see that a lot. You're just so sad. And I'm like, the only ones I'm sad and angry about, one, you're coming on, like, we're not asking for your opinion. Like, they'll be like, well, you just don't respect our beliefs. You're doing the same thing. And I said, no one should have it's not about opinion or belief. You can have your beliefs about, you know, global warming, like just whatever you want. Like, but when it comes to my personal, like, you know, things, like, no one should have a right, you know, or an opinion over who I love, you know, like, that's just absolutely, that's not like, you can have your belief, like, for you, like, let's say that you were against, you know, whatever, you don't have to go hook up with a man, you know, like, I'm not saying like, okay, well, you agree, you don't agree with me, so like, you know, screw you, like, go hook up with a man, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm not saying that. Like, the only people that are doing that, it's just very wild to me. They're bizarre rationale, I guess, on all of it.
I know. It's so sad. You know, when I have children, I would still love them if they were straight. Like, if they were straight, I'd still, like, I would find in my heart to accept them.
Think of that. I will love you either way song. God. That is wild. But
I did want to touch on a few other things quickly. Well, not quickly, I guess. These are all great talking points. But I wanted to talk about your internal homophobia. We discussed this a little bit over email.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
So, like I said, a little bit, like, even sometimes still, like kissing a girl, or even like, you know, after even hooking up, sometimes, like, I've like talked to my, you know, partners about it in the past. Like, sometimes I still feel like almost gross, and I know that even straight people can when it's like premarital sex, like certain things, like, you know, that you still feel like kind of whatever about, but like sometimes I'll still catch myself and I'm like, one, I think it's not this isn't necessarily internal homophobia, but I'll be like, man, my life would be just so much easier if I was not, you know, gay, or even like whatever it is. But like sometimes I just get so like randomly grossed out by just something. Like, it makes and a lot of times it goes back to the gay therapy, I think, but like just and what you're taught in church and stuff like that. It's so sad how many people have to deal with the internal homophobia, and like, or even like for example, and I'm going to be honest, and I have a lot of like trans, you know, friends that I'm now like, I used to be, even like, just like I was homophobic, I used to be like transphobic because I didn't know anything about it. And so I, you know, that one took a long time, a little bit longer, because since I'm not, you know, trans, like I had to like, I didn't fully empathize, but that's where I asked questions and learned. And there's just so many things on both of those. Like, I feel like it's just a matter of getting to the bottom of where those are coming from. And then kind of like what you were saying with your other thing, you're just like, you say something out loud and you're just like, you say it so many times, you're just like, it sounds so silly almost. Like, why am I thinking these things? And you just have to like kind of come to an understanding. But it's wild how many people have influenced the internalized homophobia that we have, you know, nowadays. It's sad.
It's yeah, I should have mentioned this before too, but that therapy that I was doing, that was very specific. I don't think you can I don't think in every situation you can just say what your fear is out loud and stuff. And
no, absolutely.
I'm scared of heights. Yeah. But it was,
but even with like that, like after I just like, if I hook up with a girl and I'm like, I just have to like, you know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes for me, everybody's is different, but like, sometimes I just have to like tell myself like, what?
Do you ever, so I'll tell you a bit about my story. I've experienced the same thing where I've just gotten disgusted at sex for some random reason. So purity culture really fucked me up really bad. And I've written a scathing review of on Goodreads for that book, Every Young Man's Battle, essentially, like when Amy and I first got married, 1 out of 10 times we waited till we were married to have sex. We fooled around a little bit beforehand, but we were pretty good Christians, and we didn't have like penis and vagina sex until we were married. And
I always say everything but sex.
Oh, butt sex, yeah. And I commented that I love butt sex. Yeah. So one of the I can't believe I just said that.
That'll throw you off.
So 1 out of 10 times that we would have sex when we first got married, I wouldn't be anxious either beforehand or afterwards. I wouldn't have like anxiety, and sometimes the anxiety was so bad that I wouldn't want to have sex anyway. And this caused so much conflict. Now it's a lot better. Yeah. But man, for the longest time, I still felt horrible shame and feelings around like sex with my wife that we waited till we're married. Like it has nothing to do.
Get into the mindset of even having sex whenever, because that's the last thing you want to be thinking about when you're being intimate, like when you're intimate with someone, because I mean, like, how are you supposed to, and they can pick up on your body language if you're not into that, or it's not that you're not into it, but you're thinking, your mind is elsewhere, even if it's unintentional.
Like we'll be like, it'd be like something like maybe you can relate, but we'll be like spooning, and then I'll jump into the spoon, like totally keen, like to spoon, right? Nothing really more. I'm not thinking about that yet. And then all of a sudden I'll be like, wait, what if she wants to what if she goes like her hands start moving or something? And then I'm like, and then I'm like, what if that happens? What if it doesn't happen? And then all of a sudden I'm in a panic. And it's like, this is so stupid. Like, do I like sex? Yes. Do I want to have sex? Yes. Like, why am I panicking about this? This is so weird. But now it's the opposite. Now it's like 1 out of 10 times, like maybe a little bit of anxiety. But
but it's so wild how we can still be so woke. Like we've come a long way. But it's still every once in a while, because I've had my sexual experiences at this point where I didn't the first the beginning, obviously, like you're gonna since that's like your background, you're gonna be terrified in some ways and like have all these shame thoughts and stuff like that. But like you don't expect, I guess you think like, well, maybe down the road you don't expect to have them still, I guess, like, but every once in a while it just like hits you kind of like a train almost sometimes, or sometimes like subtle even, but it's just wild to me.
You're like, when I get the tattoo of the two girls kissing on my arm, I'll be fine. And then you're like, because there's no going back then. But then, like for me, it was like, when I'm married, it's fine.
Even the guy that gave me the "Love is Love" tattoo, he was homophobic.
Oh, okay.
I was in South Georgia, and that was something random. But this one, I got that one, and I was like, maybe that'll push that away. But I don't know. It's just interesting.
Geez. I do. It's the human mind is an amazing thing, and it's important to remember that sometimes life's crazy and sometimes you have horrible feelings, but try and enjoy it while it lasts, because it's probably the only thing we've got. That's my take in life. I actually wanted to, because you said that, I got a question that I'm going to take from the Q&A, but I'll chuck it in now. What do you think starts homophobia? Like, why do you think people are homophobic?
One, sometimes it's like their internal stuff that they're battling. That's not always, but like that is a lot of times, sometimes that could be it. Or either sometimes it has to do with their trauma that they've experienced and they're, projecting it onto other people, because, that's always a thing. But I think it's more so like the part that never really fully makes sense to me. That's why a lot of times I'm always like, what are you like hiding? Or there's more to it, because everybody's different, It's just like, why are they so focused on this specific sin? People are drunkards all the time, like, or they have these other habitual sins. Like, that's just wild to me that, like they, it's just wild that that's the one they focus on. They're so focused on who we're having sex with, and like that's the one that's going to send us to hell, but they don't seem to like care if we're doing the other things like that. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to me at all, but then other times I'm just like, I really like, knowing my parents, I know that a lot of people are like this, and they're so, the word she always used makes me literally want to throw up. She was like, I'm so worried about your salvation. And like we talked about at the beginning, I know they're like the intent, you know, whatever, but at the end of the day, they're focused on the wrong things, I think. And that's not what I believe. If that God is the God, you know, whatever, I don't think he's focused on that, but I think they're just focused on the wrong things, and they're focused on salvation instead of like turning me to God. They're probably pushing me farther away than they ever could. So it's just very wild. You know, I think that's where a lot of fear is the root of a lot of homophobia.
When someone says that to you, I'm so scared for your salvation. You should just reply, I'm so concerned for your critical thinking skills.
Exactly. Oh, I do. And I'm also like, okay, take the plank out of your, you know, eye when my splinter over here is like, you know, they have this God complex.
Pet peeves of religion. What are your pet peeves?
Definitely the lifestyle one, like I said, but there's just those like, you know, trigger words, and I hate some of like the word trigger, like I've said in some of my posts, because people do overuse them, like they'll act like it's a quirk or something. But I think it's more so downplaying, like pet peeves, like when it comes to homosexuality, is one, just not listening to someone. Like, I do not care. Like, if I ended up talking to you after this and you're like, you still like, if you had a thought like it was a sin or something, at least you listen to me. And I think the other thing.
Sorry, hang on. What was that? Okay.
You're like, never mind. Fuck you.
Sorry, I drifted off for a second.
But no, like, you know, it's just that, like, that kind of thing is like, or more so just, and sometimes people will try to, I guess, downplay. I don't like necessarily, because I don't like to sound like the victim, because I'm always so scared of it. But more so, like, I think it's important that we all look at like Stonewall, like even the Orlando, Florida, like I don't know if you heard about that, like the shooting. Yeah. Just a lot of the things that have happened and not that long ago. And like, I think it's important to respect people's stories and just like the oppression that's still going on, you know, and it's just wild to me. But like I made a TikTok about some of them, like, and some people commented a lot of like wild ones too, you know, like we all have just the same things, like just the Adam and Steve, you know, whatever. The jokes that people make, like some of them I'm just like, y'all don't realize like how y'all might think it's like so small, but that one little comment could make someone hurt themselves. Yeah. And that might put someone over the edge. People stop looking at the person. They look at the sin. And they're like, love the sinner. That's one I hate. Love the sinner, not the whatever. Hate this, whatever it is. I don't even know how it goes, but like hate the sin, but not the sinner. Love them, but whatever it is. I just can't stand that, because I don't want my sin, my love, to being compared to a sin. Like, it's just super annoying. Like, even if you don't agree with it, like I don't want that. I can't stand that, because I still value my old value. Like, I still respect my old beliefs, even if I don't fully believe them. And I still believe some of them. So I'm just like, I don't even know all the answers, and neither do y'all. So like, what's the point of, except for you, I was going to say that. But,
it was actually I always say this, it was actually the values that were taught to me in church that actually had me reject Christianity. Because I was taught that truth was always the most important thing. And I realized that for me to be truthful and honest, intellectually honest, I had to investigate it without a bias. I had to remove as much bias as possible. So it's interesting that it was the values that were taught to me in church that led me to reject church or Christianity.
Yeah. And I think the biggest value that, like, one I just thought of, and I'll be quick, was like the unconditional love. That is a huge thing for me. And I feel like no one can ever fully be unconditionally loving someone. Like, there's always going to be some, you know, something, but I've always cared about that so much. And anybody that is close friends to me will tell you that I am super intentional. I think because of how they never did it with me, I would never want someone to feel like that. So I value that. And my parents definitely don't know that about me. That's why I'm always like, God, they don't know me at all. But like, I just can't stand when I see so many people that are spewing all this crap out when their love is so conditional. And I'm like, so many people in my community, like, are loving people, like, no matter like where they are. They could be like, you know, whatever it is. And they're like, they say love is love. My mom hates that phrase, you know, but I'm like, God is love. Love is love. It should be that simple. And people complicate it so much. And they're like, you know, it is what it is. But I can't stand that.
You should tell your mom about that Deborah Grace in her book. She talks about crucifying the Bible. She talks about how there's a pretty well substantiated but kind of fringe perspective that King David was a bisexual. And that he had a bisexual lover. It's all through. Yeah. It's an interesting perspective. But I do have a question.
Yeah.
I have a question though. Like, did you always have these pet peeves, or was it just when you chose the gay lifestyle? Sorry, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No, I'm never ready. I'm always like, oh, yeah. It was when I chose that.
I'm a drunk Australian. Okay, like
once you go to the vagine, you don't go back. That's what I always say. And not to mention, I ran away from the one dick that I saw. So I was like,
yeah. Well, it wasn't pierced enough, so that makes sense. Who does that though? That's so gross. Like, who gets dick piercings?
I was
not to shame anyone who has dick piercings.
No, I just wasn't ready. Someone just showed me, and I wasn't ready just to even see anything. So I was not expecting. I didn't even know really what it fully looked like, and then I was like, oh no, like what? I wasn't ready.
Well, you didn't know what dicks fully look like, or you didn't know what?
Not fully. Like, I've seen it in, like, you know, in the porn that I saw when I was young, but like, I didn't really know what it like looked like. And the one time I touched it and ran, it was dark, so I was like, it was
it literally, did you actually touch the dick, like, or did you grab it?
Well, technically there's two, and both of them are friends with me now, but one was like literally a touch, and then because I tried right after it, I was like, maybe I just wasn't comfortable with that one. And both times I ran, and the worst part was the second time, it was my neighbor, and love him to death. He's one of my best friends now. And he's even commented on one of them, but I had to go back because I left my phone. I ran that quick. I left my phone, and I think I had my laundry or something. I have no idea. I had to go back, and I was like, please be in your room, because this was like in like the common area. And I was like, I have to have it for my alarm. So I ran back in, and he was just standing there, and I just wanted to jump off the balcony at that point. I was like, nope, this is it. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's amazing.
The things gay people do because they don't want, like, the situations. It's rough.
Yeah, that's so funny. I always think about that. Like, what if I was actually gay and I was trying to prove that I was straight? Oh no. What if it was like the other way around, and I was like I was trying to get into dicks, and I was like trying to touch dicks, and I was like, oh, I can't do this. I like vaginas.
Literally, like it was like scary. And then the one time I even made I posted about this one today. Like, my old roommate, I was like, you've got to call me and like come up with some bullshit story to get me out of this situation. I'm scared he's going to try. And I was on a date, and I was like, I got to go. I was like, I could have just left, but of course I just couldn't put myself in the situation. I don't even know. I'm so stupid looking back, but here we are.
How is your relationship with your family now? Obviously.
So no. And, just to be brief, I basically I almost started letting my mom in again, like, kind of. She came into my graduation, even though I had a girlfriend at the time. And I thought that she was going to be like, you know, the one, you know, and everything. And I basically told my mom, I was like, look, because I miss my mom all the time. My dad, I've very much so detached from, because he's just complete and utter jackass, and I'm just gonna say I don't care, to be honest. You can see his posts on, you know, line, and it's the stuff he posts is absolutely heinous, truthfully. Like, it's bad. And so it makes it easy to detach from someone when they're like that. And I would say that I say that pretty much. I'm very vocal about it online, but I still love him as much as I can. And I still it's hard to say that, but I do love my mom. That's the hardest part. But I started letting her back in, and I was like, look, you can come to my graduation, but basically you can't say anything about her or whatever. She didn't want to go to dinner with all of us, like me and her, like she wouldn't do that. So I did something separate with her, which still sucks, but I don't know. I was glad to see her, but like it was just the strangest encounter, and not to mention COVID. So we had to like be in these closed areas to get, it was just awkward. But then after that, I started letting her in more, and I had to cut her off recently again because I basically gave her the ultimatum this time, because I've only been the one to ever compromise. I tried to get, I even made myself after I even was financially cut off, I still was trying, and all these other things, I was trying to still go because I wanted these demons to go away, because I really wanted to keep my family. I did so many things to compromise, and basically they never tried anything. And so I was like, look, Mom, I'm just telling you this. I love you. And I even started talking to my dad a little bit more. And then I was like, but if y'all can't show up to my future wedding, whenever that is, I can't, that you don't have to agree with anything. You don't have to pay like support. You don't have to do anything. But if you can't just show up, you did your job as a parent, like blah, blah, blah. Like I did a whole, I literally have it on my phone. I wrote a speech, and I basically just recited it because I didn't want to get off, because I know I can be emotional. I know I can be ADD and stuff. And I just said, hey, look, I just need you to be able to say all of this, and I will give you time to completely speak tomorrow, and I will not speak. But it was so hard for me to get that out. And I was like, but I can't have a full conversation about it tonight, is basically what I told her. But she ended up cutting me off, not respecting that. And yeah, and so I cussed her out, like, and I've never really done. I think I just got all my anger just blew up after she cut me off, because I just asked. I never asked them for anything. I've been very self-sufficient and things like that, and she couldn't do that one simple task. And if they can't show up to my wedding, then I don't want it. And the rest of my family, I never really even got to come out to, because basically if it's a all or nothing thing. And I did, like, a part of me did disrespect the rest of my family in a sense, because in their mind, and I see how they think of it, I understand how I saw it as a child too, but they basically they were all great to me growing up, like my grandparents and my aunt and uncle that I was super close to, the ones, we have a small family. But I just kind of fell off the face of the earth for a while because I was really mentally going through it. And then after that, it was such an awkward, I never really got to come out with my parents, and everybody told them. And I tried reaching out to my grandma, like not that long ago. And she was just basically like, if you're not on good terms with your parents, we're not doing it, So it was like an all or nothing thing, like I knew it would be, but I wish I would have come out to them. I didn't really, how things all happened. It happened so fast, and it was just a whole mess. But basically, I've had to cut them off twice. But the point before, I'm not going to go into whatever. Mm-hmm. I had to cut them off the first time because of this conference thing that they sent me to. But the second time was because of the wedding thing. So, yeah. I'm sorry. This is so much.
No, none of this is your fault. Like, you know that, right?
It's I don't know. It's a lot, like it sucks being like the black sheep. Is that what the term is? Or is that what it is? Of the,
I'm
of the
the
family.
Black sheep as well.
Yeah. Like it's,
well, I was.
Well, and I know it takes a toll on my sister, and I think that's kind of where it hurts, because my mom's not very mentally like put together at all. Like she's very not, she needs like actual, like help rather than like just prayers. Like I do. Like truthfully, that's what I need. We all have mental health issues and probably things that need to be diagnosed sometimes. And sometimes people don't do that if they're spiritual, because they think that, they can be healed and stuff. So I really wish that she would go seek some help out. But I just know that this taking a toll on my sister, and because my mom, she's basically had to be my therapist at some points. And I always feel that, like, I hate that, because my sister moved up here to be with me and stuff, but she's also had to be that for my mom. So I kind of I don't put her in the middle of it anymore. And I'm going to therapy and things like that. But
That's awesome to hear that you're going to therapy.
Yeah. It's hard to find a therapist though that understands a lot of this demonic stuff.
It is. Though. And it's important to find a good therapist.
So I'm still kind of looking.
One of my favorite TikToks of yours was actually the one with your sister when you were throwing pens into the jar. I mean, just hearing you guys so hard. Yeah. And it's just like, it really, like, that was another one I ran up to my wife and it's like, look at this. I don't think she's as excited as I was because she doesn't like know your full story. She's like,
yes.
But yeah, it's just so nice. It was so nice to see you guys, like, you know, you guys really obviously love each other, and you can tell that because you give each other shit, and that's a big sign of love in my books. So that was awesome to see, and she seems like a really cool person.
She is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just all sucks. You know, you don't want to be in the situation because it seems so stupid if you put yourself out of it. If you like look outside in, but like, why is this the one thing?
Do you know what I love about you, Haley, is you are in a bit of a shitty situation with your family and everything that you've gone through and stuff, but you're really truly making the best of it, at least publicly, in regards to like you've got a great message. You're showing people that it's okay to be yourself. You're funny as fuck. You're quirky.
Thank you.
You're quirky. Yeah.
Drama brings some humor, I will say.
Yeah.
Hopefully, at least it brings something.
I think that what you're doing is awesome. And I think that the people that, you know, most people that watch your TikToks might, you know, have a bit of a laugh and get like just a brief understanding of what it's like to go through that. But there would be some genuine people that will listen to this interview and watch your TikTok and really resonate with it. And it might actually change the path of their lives, and it might help them, because although, you know, you may not feel like you've got it all together, you're definitely a shining light for a lot of people. And that's, I mean, like I said to you when I first emailed you, I don't like the people I normally bring onto these podcasts are either like authors or a philosopher or whatever, or someone of a special religious faith. But with you, there was something about you that I was like, okay, this girl's got a really good message and she seems like a great person. And
I'm glad you saw that. Like, I mean, I'm glad that you saw like that through the story, you know, in the sense, because I have been like, even like not that long ago, not like in the darkest places like I was, but like it's like Christmas, like for example, is super hard. Like there's certain times, like it's ever since Christmas, I've been not at a low, but like it's been hard. Like this past one has been the hardest. But I have things for the future that I'm going to be coming up with that I've kind of in these dark times come up with, because I've just seen the need. And like, I know at least in America, like I've seen the need for certain things and like certain safe places and things like that it's just not there. And like gay bars and a lot of things have been taken over almost by like, I'm really happy to have allies and things like that. But a lot of times like people think it's like cute, quirky and stuff like that. And to go out to gay bars, you can even go to a gay bar and like ask someone out, like, and they almost give you a look like I'm straight. Like, it's just like not like a comfortable environment sometimes. So I just have a lot of ideas and I'm going into psychology, going to go into clinical mental health counseling, which this is why. But I'm going to kind of combine a good bit of things because that's just my passion. So I hope that one day that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and kind of like my mom said, but twisted, like I do have I'm going to claim it like, everyone does. And I hope everyone claims it's not being prideful or boastful. I think that everyone has a calling, you can call it, like they said. And I'm going to take back that word and not just use it as like, I never liked Christian music. I liked some of it. Don't get me wrong. There's some of that I really vibe with still. But that was not for me to sing. Like I didn't enjoy singing it like all the time. Some people, it just flows so naturally for them. It just never did for me. And so I'm taking back that calling because I feel like they made me almost go into a specific route with it and trying to take it and help my community that they've hurt and they have the blood on their hands. That's all I'm saying. Like, So, and I don't want to say that to condemn them, but I think they need a healthy conviction. And I think they think that they're giving us that by saying all these shameful things. And like, there are some things that like I'm not fully healed with. And I will call my dad out. Like I'll say these things, but at the end of the day, like there's more love in my heart. And I hope they get out of their mindset. I do have I will say to the audience, be careful about saying, oh, well, maybe they'll come around, or I hope they come around. And I know people mean well when they say that. This is a random one that I was going to just briefly say that I don't think people realize when people say that to me, it sends me almost in like a little emotional spiral because it makes me feel misunderstood, because if you knew how deep into my stuff my parents are, they're not going to. Like I don't like speaking things because I speak blessings and curses. I say that, I'm still like mindset brainwashed with some of it, but I just don't think they will ever. And that just breaks my heart. And so just be careful about, makes me want to cry, but like, be careful about what you say to people, because it's hard. You don't know, like, just because a lot of people's parents do come through and like they learn from their mistakes, and they, or they'll be at least more open or show up to their wedding even if they don't agree, but a lot of them won't. So I just think people as a whole like to look at hope, and they like to hold on to hope. I think that's the reason for a lot of people believing in God. But I think that sometimes you just have to look at healing in a different way and just be like, look, I am who I am, and I'm going to be independent and go from there, but that's my spiel on that. But yeah,
we ended with crying. That was our goal. So.
I was not even expecting that. I was just like,
no,
I get super passionate about it because I genuinely care, and there's been too many lives lost. So
I'm totally on the same page with you there, and that's why I think like your song speaks your heart. What you just said there speaks your heart. It's incredibly important, and there's obviously a long way to go in regards to healing in the community, healing in your life, and you know what, like whether or not whatever your family, I'm just gonna say, whatever your family looks like in the future, in regards to your blood family and in regards to your friends, I hope that it's
chosen family. Yeah, that's a new concept.
Chosen family.
That's something I'm definitely learning. And that's why I'm super grateful for TikTok, because I'm learning a lot, and I've already like connected like with you. I've connected with certain people that I'm really glad I've talked to, it's been great knowing that there's actually people out there,
We do have some questions and answers. We do have some question and answers. I'll just maybe end with a quick couple of questions, if that's okay.
For sure.
And this is from some people on Reddit and a friend. I already asked the homophobia one. And I'm going to just pick some good ones because I don't want to. How difficult was it to come to terms with your family's rejection?
It's still sometimes hard, but it was insanely hard because I almost didn't see it as rejection. It was a matter of identifying it even as rejection instead of disrespect. It's a matter of there's so many steps to even get to the word rejection. And now it's also, I wouldn't even say that was the hardest part. It's now dealing with the consequences from all of that. And it's like the codependency issues I have. I have severe codependency. I will be very honest about my issues, and because they always are like, you're not self-aware at all. And I'm like, no, I am. I have severe
You're too self-aware.
Issues. Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. But I have abandonment issues. I have certain things now that I never thought I would really deal with. And I thought I would be stronger in the sense of handling them. I just never realized how severe a lot of these things are rooted. And I call it dewire, rewire, but you can call there's like a different word people use for it. But it's like, I don't even, it's like not dismantling, but whatever it is, deconstruction or something of your, old thoughts. But I've just been having to do all of that. It's a whole thing. It's more so not the rejection. It's what comes after it.
Okay.
Fun
this
stuff.
This isn't a question, but someone on Reddit said, if you have a girlfriend, I hope you and her are doing okay. So that's just a lovely little comment.
Not quite. I'm still madly in love with her. She's working on herself. I'm working on me. So hopefully, I hope in the future we'll get back to it, but love her to death.
Yeah, that's weird because that's a weird concept to me because in heterosexual relationships, we never have issues or problems. It's always just smooth sailing.
And you go to heaven.
Yeah, and we get to go to heaven. Yeah.
So
it's
there's
a cool
that.
club.
So we just like have a big old gay party until we go to hell.
Yeah, exactly. Man, the hell must be full of gays.
Oh yeah.
I shouldn't even joke about that because some people that's very traumatic.
No, but I mean, that's the joke. I mean, even Lil Nas, his latest music video when he rode the pole all the way down to hell.
I love I love it so much. I've watched that and I'm like, this is
obviously
so good.
Everyone was like, oh my God, like it was bad, but they were freaking out. But I was like, that is an accurate representation. Like he literally made it so extreme so you would understand how we feel. Like that was wild.
He
Watch
said
that video
like,
if you haven't.
Said,
yes, he's not being that literal, but like honestly, that's how literal people are to us. So
yeah, and he's saying that people have been telling him. I watched an interview or something. A tweet or something. He said people have been telling him he's going to hell his entire life. So he's embracing their like bizarre concept of reality.
Exactly.
Are you and your sister getting by okay?
Are we getting by okay? Yeah, she's fully like, supported and everything by like my family, which I'm glad. Like that's what I've never wanted her to like. She has to do her own thing with them, and it's a whole separate thing. It does impact me sometimes, but for the most part, we are pretty good about separating things. And I know she's going through her own thing. She's been through a lot in her life, a lot. I wouldn't be alive without her, truly. But then my breakup and Christmas, it all happened all at once, and it was bad. And so that I didn't realize. Honestly, I didn't realize how many codependency issues I had until she was gone. So it's been a matter of because I had a fear of going to therapy because of the therapy I was in. Even though I was going to be a therapist, ironically, like it's just all funny how it all works out. That's why they say a lot of therapists are the ones that are, messed up. But I'm trying to really help myself before I even do all of that. Even though I have worked in the settings before, but I'm doing okay. This has been a very, very hard season for me. And I'm still like every day it's like a different, something, but it's more so because of the breakup, because I have a bad tendency, and I will say a lot of gay people have a bad tendency of, and I didn't realize it but like, if you don't have a family, you almost cling to it's not only just like losing your best friend, your relationship, but their family and the idea of family for a first time. It's just a lot because it's like Christmas it was just hard. It was hard. The timing, if that all makes sense. I know it's kind of vague, but like,
No, I understand. Yeah, that makes, I never really had that perspective because it's
and I really didn't either fully, but I don't like some of the things she said to me, like, yes, she could have said them in a better manner. And, we've all done things like said things, but I love her to death. And like something like, and it sounds bad, but I don't mean it bad. Like saying it was almost like too much because she has a lot of that she's been through. And I respect that. Like she needs, to get her own help, and me too. But basically it's just a lot, and it is almost too much. But in my mind, I'm like, it's too much for me too. But I chose to go to therapy right before we broke up. And obviously the effects hadn't kicked in because it was hard. It was like, I just cut off my family. She hasn't had to cut off hers in that sense. So she didn't fully get it, but it's been interesting because I definitely had some fear of therapy, and I held on to her family and the idea of it so heavily, unintentionally and subconsciously, that when it was gone, it felt like I lost my family all over again. And it made me feel like there's something wrong with me. I'm like, sorry, real quick, but basically a lot of Christians make you feel, and my parents made me feel like no gay people are ever going to be happy. And so it's really hard for me to admit if I'm ever sad or if I'm ever upset. This is a very weird concept because I don't think a lot of people think about it, but it's very, very hard for me to admit that I'm in a hard season because they blame my demons, and it like basically everything, like I said about like even like death, I can't even like feel my feelings almost because I feel like it's because of me being gay, when in actuality, like you could have the same type feelings, like heterosexuals could have certain feelings that are the same, but it's hard for me, like, even the breakup feelings, it's hard for me to process sometimes because I'm like, oh, it's just because I'm gay. Like my brainwash makes me, I don't know if any of that makes sense, but
no, it does. And I'm glad you said brainwash, because it is brainwashing. You've been gaslit your entire life. So have I. So have a lot of people who've been through religion.
And a lot of people that are gaslit date, not that saying that this person was, but you have to be careful because I've put myself like you. I never thought I would be that person, but like when you've been mentally abused or physically or whatever it is, a lot of times you date that and go for that. So it's been a matter of breaking patterns for me that it's just been so much fun, because also religious trauma in itself, people don't really talk about enough. And it's like almost, it's just so taboo sometimes, or just like, okay, well, that's stupid. Like there's people that are, other issues, but
yeah.
It's all such deep stuff, it's all.
It is. It's
hard to feel those feelings. That's definitely the biggest thing. Cause at the end of the day, I hate when I'm sad. I hate when I'm angry almost, because I'm like, and I really don't struggle with pride. If anything, I struggle with worth a lot of times, if it's opposite. But I will say I do have pride, which it's like hard to find the line of pride. I'm so too self-aware to where I think about everything. Like, I'm like, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong all the time? And I'm like, is this coming from a good place? Like, even my love, is this conditional? Is this like, I'm so hard on myself. And so many gay people are, because they've been put as, you're just playing the victim your whole life. And I'm so tired of people telling me what I'm doing, when in actuality, like, if they only knew, like, it's just very wild.
Yeah. And it's like the thing too is like being gay, and you have a small selection compared to like
and I'm in the middle, like I'm in like the middle of the mountains in Georgia in America. There are literally I'm picky. Like I'm so picky. Like my type, they all pretty much, I have like just a very specific type, and I'm going to be moving soon anyways, but like it's hard.
And just to be clear, I haven't swayed you at all in your type, in like heterosexuality, homosexuality in this interview.
Tell your wife. I'm sorry.
Tell your wife that she's
I'm gonna
go
fine. Call my mom real quick and be like, healed.
Healed, yeah. I just saw his glistening neckbeard and I was like, man, that guy. Two questions to end. Oh yeah, what I was saying too was you have such a small selection, and then the people who you do select out of that small selection generally have had horrible upbringings in regards to like dealing with their, so they got so issues as well. So it's not a nice
we're
situation.
Set up for failure almost. That's why a lot of like, if we do have relationships, like which heterosexual relationships fail all the freaking time, but like I will say that like it sucks because we've all been through so much trauma. A lot of us, like whether it be like some people haven't in this community, but I will say pretty much 9 out of 10, sometimes 10 out of 10 of my friends, like depending on the selection, it's all of us have had some kind of it, and it's really hard. Like even the thought of the people that think, like if you think that a gay person has it well because their parents came around, just think about that for a second. Like coming around to it, like they rejected them at first, they still had to, like that still can resonate with you and hold, like stick into your being for years after that, because you're like, well, they didn't accept me at first. They actually, like, it's just very wild. Like even people you think have it well, nope. And I've been even holding hands with my girlfriend in Dahlonega or wherever, and like in Atlanta, even, and Atlanta's like pretty, they're pretty open to a lot of things, but like anywhere around here. And basically, like, you can be doing anything and people can be staring at you and just being like judging you or being like, ugh, like saying something. It's just wild.
I'm looking at where Georgia is because I have no idea. Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's like, it's near, good old Florida. Okay. Because I was from South Georgia, which was, gosh, awful. But I moved up here because this was like still in Georgia for like, tuition purposes and things. But it's honestly a lot like, South Georgia, this mountain town, because it's just like still kind of hillbillies and stuff, but it's near Atlanta.
I have an Australian friend who moved over to and married a girl in America, and they're living in Alabama. He said that the racism was hard to deal with at the start.
Yes, that's the other thing. It's very like there's so many things that it's rough. I feel, and some of my, especially like a lot of my gay friends that are in like if there's like if one of them is white and then if the other one is like if they're black or if they're any like whatever the race may be, they definitely have to deal with even more because one is the homosexuality, then there's the the race, and then there's so many things. It's just so sad that they have to deal with that. And also like this town has like they still have like this KKK type thing meeting.
Yeah, that's what my friend was saying. Yeah, that he said he said he's only half an hour away from where the KKK started.
So they have that in a meeting in this town. Even they have a lot of things like that. It's really sad.
Not only is it sad, it's stupid. Really stupid.
Luckily, the colleges have been better though.
Yeah, I bet too. That do you know why? Because there's educated people there, is what I would guess. Sorry, I'm getting a bit triggered at racist now. Two last questions. Yes. If you could give yourself advice back in time, what would you say?
I think that the first place my mind went to is like for my aunt and my uncle, the ones that I don't like talk to, like, and I never got any to talk to, and like my grandparents. I wish that I wish I would have written in a journal. And I will say for any of like the, people that have like, gay, if any thoughts or any questioning or curiosity, be careful about where you put your stuff. It sucks to say like, hide it, but because I don't want people to feel like they're closeted and stuff, but just be careful, because if that wouldn't have blown up at the time, I wonder where things would be. But like, I don't like to think about like things like that, but I'm telling for other people, like, just be careful. But because things would have gone different. But also with like my family, I just really wish that I would have let them know, like, I wish I would have gotten to come out to them, but without my, there's some things that were just out of my control, but like, I wish I would have let them know how much I appreciate them, and like certain things I just would have done different, because I feel like a lot of stuff just got brushed under the rug because I had to focus on the gay stuff coming out. Like, there's just so much, and I was so young that like, I didn't know. Like, I don't know. I just wish they knew how much I appreciated, like how much they did for me growing up. I know they think I'm just they just think I don't appreciate them. I'm just a spoiled brat. Like, it has nothing to do with it. It's just I had so many internal things going on, and I don't mean to excuse like, just cutting, like it felt like to them, they think I cut them off, but I knew that it was a package deal. And then by the time I did, it was like, hey, look, I just needed time. It was like, too late. It would have been too late regardless. I just know my family. But yeah, there's some things like that. But with other things, like, I don't know. I just think it's more so just, I feel like there's a pressure in the world, because I can't stand when people are like, being gay is a fad, or like, people are saying it's like a good thing. Like, it's like, that's why people are wanting to do it. They're jumping on the train, the gay train. But it's the only thing I would say with that, it's nothing to do with that at all. It's more so that social media makes it seem like you have to come out right then and there. Do it when it's safe, and do it when it's best for you. And I think yes, you might have to hold things back, and yes, it's, but seek out people online. Like I'm not kidding. Yes, it's hard to get to every comment, but I will tell you, if you look at that post that I posted, I have commented, I've taken the time to try to respond to almost every single person. And that's been hard because there's been a lot, but in any of my DMs on Instagram, like there's some people out there that I've been trying so hard to respond to pretty much everything I can. It's hard sometimes, but like there are people out there that haven't had, their TikTok, just like the one blow up and stuff, but like you have to find, just try to reach out to people, and you're going to find someone. Cause I remember the first person I talked to, it was unbelievable how much weight got lifted off my shoulders, and you're not alone. And I hate when people say that to me sometimes, because you're like, you don't understand. Like, I am alone by myself, because I don't like being alone physically. Like, I'm a, person, like I'm a touchy person, I'm a whatever, but it helps whenever you have someone that like literally I will listen. Like I like to hear people's stories, and there's plenty of people out there like even like you, like, you know, like even if they're not gay, like it's good to have allies. Yes, it's because I don't really have many gay people around me right now at all, like physically. But it's good to have
everyone's a little gay.
Huh?
Everyone's a little gay. It's like my favorite.
Exactly. Just just a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's good to at least try to like find your allies, but be careful about everything. You can usually tell just go for the blatantly obvious ones sometimes if you're not sure. But and just know that your family does not have to be blood. That's the thing that's in my song that on the bridge part of it, that was just family doesn't have to be blood. And that's the part that gets me, because it can be chosen, and I'm still trying to find my full chosen, you know, family, but it's day by day. And I don't plan to have it overnight, but yeah.
And your voice is so good in that song, and you hit it so much heart comes through. I'm surprised it doesn't have more plays on Spotify, to be honest. We're going to change that. Guys, check it out in the description. Check it out and the TikTok.
One day I'm going to remake it because it wasn't the best production, but we're getting there. And I'm going to probably do a music video to that one day whenever I do find my wife. That's my goal. I'm going to probably redo that and release a music video because I have a whole plan for it. I
can't wait to see you have a wife. And I know we don't know each other very well, but I do like, I know it's been nice getting to know you. What advice would you, and this is the last question, what advice would you give others who are maybe questioning their sexuality or their gender expression?
Okay. For one, the first thing that came to my mind was, if you're questioning, be careful of your browser history, your history, if your parents check that, but like seriously though, but also, more so be safe. If you're questioning things, you know, I like to do things like this personally. And I know a lot of my friends wish they would have done it if they didn't. Don't always just jump to the physical. It's very easy to do that for a lot of people because we're like, you know, touch and go, like that's just like a lot of people are. But I'm glad that I waited, but I didn't wait for the right reasons because I was so into religion. But it kind of helped me in a sense. I'm glad that I got my mental, you know, in the right place of like, this is what I want, rather than just because if I would have had sex with a man, for example, I like no dissing on anyone that has at all. But for me, I just know it would have impacted me, you know, because I didn't want to have that sex with him. So, and yeah, if you don't know, like, you know, do what you want to do. Like at the end of the day, I'm not telling you to do that or not, but I'm just saying, try to think things like fully through before you just jump into something physically or put yourself in something that you just don't want to be in or whatever it is. And then, because I know so many people, and I think you've even said it to me, like, while we're talking, like I've known a lot of people that get into a marriage even, and then they realize they're gay, but like figure things out like mentally. I know it's hard to figure things out if you don't know until you do things, but like go on a lot of dates. Like, I don't know. I've been doing things with that. Even like there's an adventure book you can get and go like, be bold. I used to not be a bold person. And I know it's very intimidating, especially like I feel like gay guys are sometimes they aren't, but so many times they'll be so bold. But I know a lot of girls like personally that are super scared, like get a dating app, like just start talking to people and putting yourself out there more and just trying, but be safe. And be safe with sex even too, because the gay community is so hidden. They don't know a lot of things, and try to educate yourself first, you know.
It's important. Yeah. Like I think that's
because they don't teach you in sex ed, you know?
Yeah, exactly. There's a, you know, things like protection, STD tests are important if you're going to be like having a lot of different sexual partners, but also like what you just said is really, really good. Is there's in regards to like, there's an emotional cost to, you know, sleeping with someone or getting physical with someone, and you just got to make sure that you're weighing everything up. But at the same time, have fun. Like have fun.
Yes,
like it's
exactly.
not all drama.
And there's no shame into it if you've already done it. Like, yeah, like I wish I wouldn't have touched the dick necessarily and ran, but here we are. Like I'm just like, it's one of those things. Like we've all done things. Like it doesn't matter. Like there's no shame in it. There's no like whatever. It's just more so for your own safety and just your mental health. Like there's something you just don't want to do, just make sure you just try to know what you want, but like have fun, be safe. That's like the biggest thing. Cause a lot of things I put myself wasn't fun and it wasn't necessarily the safest situation at the time, but looking back, I just wish I would have educated myself more, you know?
Yeah, and if you need education on like really good, powerful, plug into the wall sex toys, check out the Haley's TikTok video.
Call him Leroy.
Yeah, that was so good.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Haley, for coming on to the podcast. I'm at a really happy drunk at the moment, so it's been.
I know
this is delicious. It's actually
solid.
really good, right?
I've been enjoying it thoroughly.
Yeah, I think I might bring it to
thank you
the
for
family
having
gathering
me
tonight. And,
no
worries.
Real. Sorry for keeping you so late.
Absolutely not. I would keep going if I could. I would keep going if I could. There's so much more I want to talk to you about, and maybe we can talk more about it when we roast Todd and Heidi Baker. Todd White and Heidi Baker. Or not roast, but at least critique their video. Or whatever we do in the future.
They deserve a roast.
We'll stay in contact. But thank you so much for joining. And all your links will be in the description. Guys, please go and check out her song with some tissues. Or at least just listen to it.
It's always Haley Brook without the E. People always forget that part. Brook without the E.
It'll be linked in the description, and when we finish this, I'll ask you which links you want and stuff. And also the TikTok. She's not only an amazing musician, she's funny as fuck.
And my DMs are open. My DMs are open on Instagram. If y'all ever I try to get to as many as I can. I'm not saying I can get to everything, but I try to, and I'll try to get to yours. I promise.
Well, Haley, is there anything else that you wanted to quickly mention, or anything else you wanted to plug before we stop the recording?
I think that's about everything. I just definitely just say, like, if you have any religious trauma, it's valid. Everything you're feeling is valid, even if it's not talked about. And there is someone out there that's been through something similar, if not the same. I haven't met someone that's been through the same exact thing with me, but yeah, I still finally don't feel fully alone anymore, which I never thought I would feel. I still haven't found the therapist that has been fully equipped to what I need, but there's so many out there, and I am keeping hope because I've found things that I didn't think I would ever find before. So I know that there's more out there. So don't give up is what I'm saying. So yeah.
Awesome.
And just because our failed relationship happens doesn't mean it's because you're gay. That.
Yeah.
Just know that.
Exactly. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Haley.